All the academy students are here for one thing, to level up by hunting low-level demonized rats. And nobody expects much from Lin Luo. After all, he's just a low-rank healer everyone laughs at. But what nobody knows is that his abilities have completely mutated. His healing skills are broken in the most ridiculous way possible. Instead of restoring health, they now inflict horrifying diseases that can kill anything they touch. While everyone else is forming parties and struggling to take down rats one group at a time, Lin Luo is casually wiping them out solo. One after another, the monsters drop dead as he experiments with his new powers. At one point, a rat tries to ambush him from the bushes, only to have every scrap of flesh ripped from its body, leaving behind nothing but a skeleton. As he pushes deeper into the forest, he leaves behind a trail of corpses and racks up levels faster than anyone in his class. But just when he's about to move on, a group of guild members suddenly blocks his path. According to them, this hunting ground belongs to their guild, and nobody else is allowed to farm monsters here. Lin Luo doesn't argue. Instead, he simply smiles and steps aside to watch. The moment they engage the monsters, he secretly tests out a brand new skill. A brutal wave of stomach pain hits the guild members out of nowhere. They clutch their guts and collapse to the ground as Lin Luo curses them with explosive diarrhea. Their bodies can't handle the pressure. Some are literally sent flying, while others have their pants explode. The stench and pain become unbearable for them, and the monsters show absolutely no mercy. Within moments, the guild members are torn to pieces. Then Lin Luo casually strolls over, finishes off the remaining monsters, and claims every single drop of loot for himself. So how did a healer end up with powers this absurd in the first place? A new generation of students gathers in a large assembly hall for their own awakening ceremony. The atmosphere is tense as instructor Li Yu calls our protagonist Lin Luo to the stage. As a transmigrator, the boy walks up with immense confidence, secretly believing he is the main character of this world. He expects to awaken a legendary combat class that will allow him to soar above his peers and start an era of dominance. When he finally touches the awakening crystal, a blinding eruption of light fills the room, leading the onlookers to assume he has successfully triggered a high-level combat profession. Unfortunately, the reality does not match the spectacle. As the light settles, a notification reveals that Lin Luo has awakened as a priest with a meager D rating. His expression of triumph instantly collapses into horror because he has been relegated to a support role typically associated with healing and dispelling status effects. To make matters worse, the other students begin to whisper and mock him, noting that healers are almost always female. This leads to them jokingly labeling him a male mama, which deeply irritates our hero. While some friends like Tang Cheng try to offer hollow comfort by saying healers are necessary for any team, others continue to tease him. This backfire causes Lin Luo to snap, warning his classmates with a terrifying grin that if they ever need his help, he might just let them bleed out. This threat quickly silences the crowd, as they realize offending a doctor is a dangerous move. Despite the tension, Lin Luo tries to maintain some dignity by insisting that if they must give him a nickname, Milk Dad sounds slightly better than the alternative. Comparing himself to others, our boy feels the weight of his low D rank, especially when Tang Cheng is revealed to be a C rank rock knight. The situation shifts again when a massive pillar of blue light erupts, announcing the awakening of the school flower, Lian Yining. She becomes a Spirit Frost Maiden with an elite A rating, immediately making her a top candidate for the country's best universities. Watching her walk away in a flurry of snowflakes, the young priest can't help but feel the gap between their fates. However, everything changes when Lin Luo opens his private status panel. To his absolute shock, his basic healing skill has mutated into something called Skin Bursting Technique. Instead of mending flesh, this skill is designed to instantly tear the target's skin apart, while ignoring a massive portion of their defense. Realizing that his magic has inverted from life-saving to life-ending, he begins to suspect that he has the unique ability to mutate any skill he learns. Because he is secretly from a wealthy background, Lin Luo doesn't waste a second and immediately uses his phone to order new skill scrolls. He briefly mentions his mother, a sailor currently working in the distant Starry Sea, before sprinting home as soon as the ceremony ends. He is so focused on his potential that he barely notices Lian Yining watching him leave with concern. Once he is safely inside his home that night, he receives his delivery and begins learning two standard priest abilities, Recovery Art and Cleanse Art. As he channels his energy, the scrolls dissolve and trigger the mutation process once again. The healing spells transform into Blood Fever Technique, which induces a debilitating fever in targets, and Enhanced Pain Technique, which doubles any agony the victim feels. Lin Luo smirks as he looks at his new arsenal, realizing that with these dark mutations, no one will ever mistake him for a harmless medic again. Just then, a notification pulls him back to reality, as he is added to a pre-exam group chat by instructor Li Yu. The teacher informs the class that they have 10 days to prepare for their final trial. Looking toward the future, our protagonist stands with a newfound sense of power, ready to show his classmates exactly what happens to those who are forced to endure his version of healing. The next day, Lian Yining stands by a school basketball court with a brown-haired friend who notices her sadness and asks if she is worried about Lin Luo. Our heroine quickly denies it, looking away in a conflicted huff, but her friend isn't buying the act. The brown-haired student warns her that things have changed since the ceremony, as an A-level professional like Lian Yining is destined for a top university, while someone like Lin Luo simply lacks the qualifications. She urges the school flower to express her feelings now before the distance between them becomes permanent. This emotional moment is interrupted by a yellow-haired student named Yang Haoran, who approaches with a basketball to congratulate Lian Yining on her high rank. This guy is a magic swordsman and a persistent suitor, but Lian Yining immediately shuts him down. She insists he use her full name and tells him that her future plans are none of his business before walking away. Due to this public rejection, Yang Haran's expression twists into a sinister scowl. He thinks to himself that she shouldn't act so noble when she is secretly writing love letters to a D-level priest. He decides to be merciless in the future as he licks his lips with a menacing gaze. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to the Demon Rat Plains, a low-level hunting ground northwest of town. Lin Luo arrives dressed in white and gold priest robes, figuring the location is convenient for testing his mutated skills and leveling up. At the entrance, several armored professionals are shouting for elite teammates to clear the area, but our protagonist ignores the recruitment calls. A red-haired woman named Sister Ching approaches him kindly, offering to protect him since he looks like a fresh rookie. Lin Luo calmly declines and walks past her, preferring to work alone. While her armored companion mocks the boy as another arrogant rookie who will likely end up dead, Sister Ching notes that the young priest has a rare level of composure and confidence in his eyes. She eventually drops the subject because her team has found the coordinates for a special monster and needs to move out. Deep in the plains, other professional teams are struggling against the giant rats, finding their attack power surprisingly high. Lin Luo watches a lone rat from behind a tree and notes that its attributes explain why most people choose to form teams. He points his staff and activates his mutation, causing a black explosion of energy that shreds the creature instantly. Given that he killed a level 2 monster so easily, he realizes his mutated priest skills are terrifyingly efficient. He tests his blood fever technique on another rat, watching it tremble and die from continuous internal damage. This solo hunting provides a massive amount of experience, causing a levels up. He opens his status panel to assign his new attribute points, and although his D rank doesn't give as many points as a high-level class, he pours everything into his mental stat to boost his casting power. He decides to test his third skill, the enhanced pain technique, on a rat in the bushes. When the purple energy rings appear, the rat seems unaffected and confuses our hero until he realizes that the spell only doubles existing pain. Since the rat wasn't hurt yet, there was nothing to amplify. The monster lunges at him, forcing Lin Luo to use his skin-shredding spell to blow the creature apart mid-air. He concludes that this specific debuff is best saved for durable bosses. Over the next 6 days, he continues his grind, repeatedly slaughtering level 10 rats until he hits level 10 himself. This milestone grants him a new skill point, but he discovers that derived skills on his skill tree are quite bizarre. One icon depicts a diseased stomach, which the system labels as acute gastroenteritis. Despite how underworld the skill sounds for a priest, our protagonist is intrigued and decides to try it. Suddenly, a massive shadow looms over him as a level 15 demonized giant rat leader appears, likely drawn out because Lin Luo killed so many of its subordinates. The boss lunges with its claws, but Lin Luo blocks the strike with his staff and retaliates with a defense-ignoring skin burst. He stacks his blood fever and pain-deepening techniques, causing the massive creature to writhe in agony. He realizes that while it would take 10 normal professionals to kill this boss, his mutated kit allows him to simply sit back and wait for it to die. However, his victory is interrupted by a group of men in purple robes. Their leader claims the Star Sea Guild has reserved all monsters in the area and threatens to attack Lin Luo if he doesn't leave. Instead of backing down, our protagonist stands there with a smile. As the fight with the rat leader nears its end, Lin Luo finds a spot on a nearby rock to relax. He casually watches from the sidelines while the Shanghai Union professionals take over the battle. These guild members are visibly struggling, shouting warnings to one another about the dangers of the boss even when its health is low. The captain and a bald teammate notice the boy sitting nearby, and although they are annoyed by his presence, they assume he is just a sensible rookie who decided to stay out of the way. When our hero notices them looking, he simply offers a smug peace sign, which only further irritates the captain. Given that the Union is a powerful organization, the captain assumes no one would be foolish enough to interfere with them, so he refocuses his team on resisting the monster's next attack. Everything changes when a guild member with an afro suddenly freezes in place. His face twists in agony as he clutches his stomach, complaining that he can no longer hold back a sudden, intense biological urge. This leads to a massive, explosive eruption from the back of his pants that actually launches him forward with force. The surrounding teammates are thrown into a panic, shielding their eyes and noses from the horrific sight and smell. As the bald man and a female professional start feeling the same stomach pains, the captain realizes they are being hit by something far worse than a gas bomb. Due to the fact he is distracted by the overwhelming stench and the chaos of his team, the captain loses his focus, allowing the rat boss to lunge at him. Lin Luo remains unfazed, watching the scene while listening to music through earbuds. He stands up as his weapon begins to glow with a dark purple aura, chuckling at the idea of everyone unleashing their symptoms at once. Now that the captain has collapsed to the ground in pale-faced agony, feeling as though his insides are about to explode, our protagonist decides it is time to end the farce. He unleashes a massive red and black energy blast that represents his mutated skin-bursting and pain-deepening techniques. The explosion consumes both the rat boss and the guild members, leaving the battlefield silent. As the smoke clears, our boy walks through the carnage to claim his rewards. He notes that he is the one who ultimately benefited from letting others do the hard work. Since he secured the kill, he reaches level 11 and receives a boost to his attributes. He searches the loot orbs and finds rare materials alongside a black and red skill book. He suspects the rare drop happened because he fought the boss solo, which usually increases the odds of finding high-level items. Among the loot is a magic moon's eyes ring, which he immediately puts on since its passive ability to recover mental energy is perfect for a caster. After testing the ring, he turns his attention to the new skill book titled Virus Transmission. He realizes that while his equipment skills don't mutate, his active spells certainly do. As he learns the new ability, it transforms into a terrifying power called Black Death Outbreak. He reflects on how the historical plague killed millions, and he realizes that even at level 1, this mutated skill could rival a forbidden curse when paired with his pain amplification. He feels a surge of ambition, imagining the lethal plague areas he can now create. Just as he prepares to pack up his materials, the air in front of him begins to crack with jagged red energy. A massive portal shaped like a door manifests in the forest, signaling the birth of a new secret realm called the Scarlet Altar. Lin Luo recognizes this as a high-stakes opportunity that is much more rewarding and dangerous than a standard dungeon. Because the realm will disappear once completed or closed, he knows he has to act fast. He sees that it is a difficulty-level challenge for those between level 10 and 15. Although he knows it might be dangerous to enter alone, he decides that seeking wealth requires taking risks and steps into the red portal. Meanwhile, Sister Qing and her team of high-level professionals arrive at the same spot. They are celebrating a successful mission, but they stop in their tracks when they see the portal. While the men are disappointed that they are too high-level to enter, they suggest selling the coordinates on the black market for millions. Sister Qing has a different plan, wanting to gift the secret realm to her niece who recently reached level 10. However, they realize with surprise that the portal is already active, meaning someone has already entered. Inside the realm, the protagonist finds himself in a dark cave filled with red altars and blue-skinned lizardmen. The system tasks him with clearing all monsters and destroying the altars. He analyzes the lizardmen and realizes they are much stronger than the rats he faced earlier, possessing high health and strength. As they have a keen sense of smell, the monsters detect him almost immediately and charge with their hammers. Lin Luo quickly casts skin bursting and acute gastroenteritis, causing the monsters to swell and leak fluid. However, the cave is poorly ventilated, and the resulting stench is so foul that our hero nearly gags. He realizes that using gastroenteritis in an enclosed space is a mistake, as he might end up suffocating himself. Determined to adapt, he readies his staff to test a different approach for the rest of the cave. Outside the red portal, Sister Qing stands with a double row of masked bodyguards who remain at rigid attention. Since she wants to help her niece progress, Sister Qing encourages Lian Yining to enter the secret realm as a birthday gift. The young girl arrives wearing her school tracksuit and carrying a small white fluorescent cat she found in the forest, which she believes will make a great healing pet. Sister Qing explains that she has specifically chosen these level 15 bodyguards to ensure a safe and profitable run. Although Lian Yining would prefer to pick her own teammates, she finds it difficult to refuse her aunt's kindness and prepares to enter. Unfortunately, the plan hits an immediate snag. As the masked guards vow to protect the girl with their lives, Lian Yining leaps toward the portal only to be violently repelled by a barrier. One of the guards checks the gate and realizes that someone else has already entered the secret realm, locking everyone else out. Sister Qing is visibly annoyed by this development, assuming some reckless rookie must have wandered in by accident. While she expects the intruder to die quickly so that they can take over, Lian Yining looks back in shock, wondering exactly who managed to beat them to it. Deep inside the cave, the intruder is revealed to be Lin Luo, who has just finished dispatching a level 15 demonized lizard. Because the monster is a high-level secret realm inhabitant, it provides massive experience points that immediately push our hero to level 12. He reflects on his new Black Death skill, noting that while it might be less effective in wide-open spaces where monsters are scattered, This enclosed cave is the perfect environment for a biological disaster. The poor ventilation and high density of lizardmen mean he can turn the entire cavern into a massive infection zone. Since he cannot risk a direct confrontation with dozens of lizardmen at once, he decides he needs a pathogen to spread his virus. He spots an elite white-skinned lizard carrying heavy chains and identifies it as the perfect target because of its high physical defense but low magical resistance. Linluo casts his Black Death outbreak on the creature, causing dark veins to bulge across its muscles. As the infected elite returns to its patrol, its confused subordinates gather around, unaware that they are being exposed to a lethal plague. Our boy watches from the shadows as the virus spreads exponentially through the crowd, noting that the monster's lack of hygiene makes the transmission even easier. Now that he senses the infection has reached every corner of the cave, he decides the hour has arrived. He raises his staff and triggers a massive explosion that causes every infected monster to erupt in a blinding flash of energy. The cave is instantly filled with notifications of lizardmen dying, and the sheer volume of experience causes Linluo to level up 6 times in a row, reaching level 16. He is thrilled by the efficiency of his mutated kit, realizing that clearing an untouched secret realm solo is giving him a massive advantage. As he approaches the stone altar to finish the mission, he encounters a large lizard priest. He initially mistakes it for a survivor, but he quickly realizes he is facing a Silver Lord boss known as the Scarlet Lizard Priest. Because the boss is already wounded and attempting to cast a healing spell, Linluo decides to be merciless. He unleashes a rapid-fire sequence of his most painful mutations, including skin bursting, blood fever, and acute gastroenteritis. The boss is overwhelmed by the combined agony and collapses to its knees, gasping for air. Just as our protagonist prepares to destroy the altar and finish the job, a terrifying change occurs. A geyser of dark energy erupts from the fallen boss, and the spirits of the dead lizardmen begin to fly back toward the corpse. These ghostly forms fuse with the body, causing it to grow and mutate into a much more powerful entity. The resulting creature, a rampage mutation white lizard priest, stands before him with a massive increase in health and strength. Linluo watches the update with a grim expression, realizing that the final trial of the Scarlet Altar has only just begun. He stands exhausted at the base of the altar as the white-skinned rampage mutation white lizard priest towers over him. Since the boss is a hybrid of a melee fighter and a mage with overwhelming attributes, Linluo realizes he is in a dire situation. This crisis is made worse by the fact that he has completely drained his energy and cannot cast any skills. The mutated priest lets out a guttural roar and lunges forward with malice. Luckily, our hero manages to dodge the massive claws, which allows him just enough time to reach into his bag for a blue mana potion. He knows that without restoring his magic powers, he has no hope of winning this fight. The boss does not give him any breathing room and immediately initiates a high-speed charge. This sudden maneuver knocks Linluo back before he can finish his drink. As he only managed to take a small sip, he remains frustrated and struggling to stay upright. The lizard priest then raises its staff to activate a blood entanglement skill which surrounds our hero in ribbons of red energy. Gritting his teeth, the young priest focuses his remaining power into his wooden staff and unleashes a wave of dark purple energy. Although the boss jumps into the air to dodge the attack, Linluo is actually relieved. The boss was never his true target, and the distraction finally gives him the window he needs to finish his mana potion. As the dark energy settles into the piles of lizardmen corpses scattered around the room, the ground begins to rumble. Linluo stands tall with his mana fully replenished even though his health is dangerously low. The boss appears confused that a human could recover so quickly, but Linluo explains that his real strategy involved the environment. He reveals that while they were fighting, he was actually infecting all the nearby corpses with his virus. With these bodies now concentrated with lethal energy, he decides to use all of his remaining mana for a final devastating move. He triggers a massive skin explosion that consumes the center of the cavern in crimson energy. No matter how powerful the mutant boss is, it cannot withstand the viral pressure of the infected flesh and blood raining down on it. The explosion destroys the balance in the creature's body and kills it instantly. Notifications flood our hero's vision, confirming the kill and granting him a massive jump to level 20 along with several attribute and skill points. Surveying the glowing loot, he is pleased to find a gold-level Crimson Fury staff and a meteor hammer. While the hammer is useless to him, the staff provides a major boost to his spirit and critical hit chance, making it a perfect fit for his build. Opening his skill tree, he discovers a bizarre new ability called Alzheimer's Technique, which causes targets to forget their own skills or become stuck in time. Despite finding the name ridiculous, he learns it along with an influenza virus skill to round out his arsenal. Given that there is still a massive amount of monster materials scattered around, he uses a newly unlocked summoning skill to call forth 2 spectral lizardmen warriors. He puts these summons to work as manual laborers to gather all the loot for him to sell later. Before leaving, he notices a rare demonized rune floating above the altar. He realizes this upgradable item is likely the greatest reward of the entire secret realm. As he grabs the rune, a final completion banner appears and grants him a perfect pass reward. This massive windfall includes 100,000 experience points, 10,000 gold coins, and a resurrection cross. Following this huge experience boost, he levels up 4 more times to reach level 24. Outside the portal, Sister Qing and Lian Yining are waiting with their guards. When the portal ripples, the guards assume a failed team is retreating, but they are stunned when only one battered person walks out. Sister Qing initially feels pity for him, assuming his entire team must have died inside, and she tries to offer him some hollow words of comfort about being strong. Lian Yining rushes forward in total disbelief and asks what happened to his teammates. Lin Luo calmly explains that he was hunting solo, which causes the guards to whisper that he must be a liar or a braggart trying to deceive the young lady. Lin Luo ignores the skepticism and begins walking away to focus on trading his new items for money. Lian Yining chases after him while the guards continue to doubt his story. However, the situation changes instantly when the red portal begins to shrink. Sister Qing watches in total shock as the secret realm vanishes entirely. She finally realizes that the entrance only disappears once a realm is fully cleared, proving that the young priest actually conquered the entire challenge all by himself. In a forest clearing, Lian Yining runs to catch up with Lin Luo as he tries to walk away. She urgently calls out for him to wait and explains that while her aunt's bodyguards are skeptical, she fully believes in his abilities and knows he is telling the truth about clearing the realm alone. Our boy stops and turns but remains characteristically indifferent, noting that the opinions of others simply do not matter to him. Relieved by his calm reaction, the schoolflower takes a chance and asks if he will form a team with her for the upcoming exam competition. Since each exam consists of both individual arena fights and team raids, the stakes are incredibly high. Groups of 3 are tasked with clearing as many floors of a trial tower as possible to determine their ranking and eligibility for prestigious colleges and special awards. Lin Luo remains skeptical and points out that as a lowly D-rank priest, he is a poor choice compared to other elite professionals. However, Lian Yining pleads with him, insisting that she only wants to team up with someone she actually knows and trusts. Finding it difficult to refuse such a direct invitation, the boy finally agrees to the partnership. Later that evening, the scene shifts to the interior of Lin Luo's home, where he is relaxing on his couch. Having sold off the excess equipment from his recent raid and collected gold from monsters, he has accumulated a massive fortune of over 50,000 gold coins. Due to the favorable exchange rate, this translates to over 500,000 yuan, which is more than his mother earns in an entire year. This realization highlights the staggering wealth and power gap that comes with being a professional. The quiet moment is interrupted when Tang Cheng bursts through the front door in a panic, worried that his friend had disappeared or lost his temper after the awakening ceremony. To quiet his energetic friend, Lin Luo points to a heavy metal chest on the floor containing a bronze-level beast sword and armor. Tang Cheng is shocked by the expensive gifts and jokingly offers to call Lin Luo his father in exchange for the gear. After pushing his friend away and rejecting the new nickname, our protagonist tells him to get ready so they can team up and aim for the top 10 colleges in the country. Meanwhile, a tense confrontation unfolds at the Lian family estate between Lian Yining and her father. The father is furious that his daughter refused a guaranteed victory by rejecting a team invitation from the Dongfang family's S-rank heir. When she defends her choice by claiming Lin Luo is an amazing professional who cleared a secret realm solo, her father dismisses the story as a childish lie, believing it is impossible for a D-rank priest to achieve such a feat. Luckily, Sister Qing intervenes and confirms that she witnessed the boy's power with her own eyes. Although he is frustrated, the father eventually relents and tells them to do whatever they want. The story moves to the day of the exam at the base of the massive trial tower, a structure that spirals into the sky over a giant waterfall. A reporter named Bing Bing explains to a live audience that this tower is a gift from God with 999 floors, and legend says anyone reaching the 1,000th floor will become a deity. While most geniuses only dream of reaching the 20th floor, the leaderboard is currently dominated by S-rank professionals like Murong Xuehen the Angel and Dongfang He the Dragon Rider. In the crowded square, Tang Cheng is visibly nervous and asks about their mystery third teammate, fearing they will be easy targets for monsters. His worries vanish when Lian Yining appears through the crowd to join them, leaving him stunned that they secured the prettiest and most talented girl in class. Nearby, Dongfang He watches from a balcony with a cold gaze, bitter over the rejection he suffered. He summons a yellow-haired student named Yang Haoran and forces him to join his team. As Yang Haoran is an A-rank magic swordsman, he is a perfect fit, though he is forced to abandon his previous teammates to serve the arrogant young master. Dongfang, he expresses his disdain for Lian Yining's short-sightedness and reveals that the only woman he truly respects is Murong Xuehen, the daughter of the prestigious Murong family. At the tower entrance, Murong Xuehen notices the odd trio of Lin Luo and his friends, but decides to focus on her own goal. She isn't just looking for a high rank, she is determined to win the world's marvelous artifact that serves as the ultimate prize for the winner. Suddenly, a massive pillar of light signals the start of the exam and teleports the students inside. Lin Luo and his team find themselves in a dark, rocky world. As a pack of demonic dogs charges from the shadows, Lin Luo prepares to finally unleash his mutated powers. However, Lian Yining quickly transforms into her Spirit Frost Maiden form. She releases a massive ice attack. By instantly freezing the entire horde into crystal, she tells our protagonist to stay back so she can protect him. This leaves the young priest standing behind her with his staff, feeling slightly disappointed that his big moment was stolen before it could even begin. The massive, spiraling Tower of Trials dominates the horizon, its jagged floors beginning to glow with yellow light as the examination gets underway. Inside a control room, instructors observe the holographic progress, noting that candidates are pushing themselves to make an impression, as their final results depend on how many floors they can clear within a 12-hour limit. A stone ledge marked with a flag for the 7th floor indicates that some teams are moving at an incredible pace. Observers note that the top spots are currently held by elite students like Dongfang He and Murong Shuihen, but they are shocked to see Lian Yining's team holding the 3rd place position. While the white-haired ice professional stands ready for battle, the camera reveals Lin Luo sitting lazily against a rock in the background. This sight leads the onlookers to label him a loser, assuming he is simply riding the coattails of his hard-working teammates. Lin Luo looks up at the exhausted Lian Yining and casually mentions that since he is a priest without healing skills, he can only offer her health potions. He dismisses the current level of monsters as being unworthy of his personal intervention, which causes the girl to tell him to stay back and stay protected. The instructors watching the feed identify her as the daughter of the prestigious Lian family and an A-rank hidden professional. They express jealousy that a boy like Lin Luo and a C-level knight like Tang Cheng are being carried by such a talented girl. They predict that even though her strength has brought them to the 10th floor, she will soon reach her limit on account of her 2 dead-weight companions. Meanwhile, Sister Ching sips tea and scoffs at the observer's comments, knowing that the boy who cleared a secret realm solo is far from a waste. She secretly hopes her niece will be brave enough to pursue her feelings for him. 3 hours later, the facility courtyard is filled with wounded students on stretchers, screaming for medical help. As the difficulty of the tower increases, more candidates are being injured or killed by the strengthening monsters. With the monsters on the higher floors being so powerful that they destroy recording equipment, there is no footage available past the 15th floor. This lack of surveillance also helps keep the candidates' ultimate trump cards secret for the individual competitions. The observers notice that Lian Yining's team has now dropped to 37th place, confirming their suspicions that she couldn't maintain a high rank while carrying 2 losers. On the 19th floor, the environment is a jagged landscape of ice where Lian Yining and Tang Cheng are leaning against the shards, panting with heavy exhaustion. The girl fears she has reached her limit, while Tang Cheng praises her for single-handedly carrying the team to such a terrifyingly high floor. At this point, the perfectly clean and calm Lin Luo walks past them toward the center of the field, announcing that he is taking the lead. Tang Cheng is confused by this shift in leadership, but Lian Yining tells him to check Lin Luo's information panel. The knight is shocked to discover that Lin Luo is actually level 26, a level so high it breaks the records of all current candidates. When Tang Cheng asks if he truly cleared the secret realm alone, the priest simply points to the expensive gear he provided for his friend as proof. Lin Luo identifies a frozen monster and asks the Ice Maiden if she can unfreeze it. He explains his strategy that given monsters live in packs, a terrified survivor will run back to fetch reinforcements. Our protagonist smiles confidently, telling his teammates to prepare for a massive level up. Once the brown-skinned creature is released, it roars in confusion and sprints away. However, the ground soon begins to tremble, but it isn't just the returning reinforcements. A massive horde of dozens of monsters, including goblins, charges over the hills toward them. Tang Xing notes that they had already cleared the surrounding area, so these monsters shouldn't be here. Lin Luo looks toward a distant cliff and spots 3 malicious silhouettes who have intentionally lured the monsters there to sabotage their competition. As a monster lunges at the overwhelmed schoolflower, a massive explosion of energy suddenly erupts to protect her. Lin Luo stands forward, having invoked a summoning skill that brings forth multiple red-skinned lizardmen. He points his staff and commands his warriors to charge, leading the lizardmen to tear through the enemy horde with ease. While his friends watch in awe, assuming this is an equipment-based skill, he holds his staff as a dark red aura explodes around him, and he triggers his Black Death outbreak. A massive white dome of energy expands from his weapon and consumes the entire area, causing dozens of monsters to instantly disintegrate into black dust. As experience notifications flood the screen, Lian Yining and Tang Cheng are left standing in a quiet, empty battlefield. Tang Cheng realizes his friend was right about simply waiting for the level up. However, Lin Luo is not yet satisfied. He forms a ball of energy in his hand and slams it down, calling forth an energy that covers the entire mountain range to ensure the death of every remaining creature on the floor. The aftermath of Lin Luo's intervention is visible as piles of bear goblin corpses disintegrate into trails of green energy. Due to this massive slaughter, a system notification confirms that the team has slain the level 20 monsters and harvested a significant amount of experience points. Tang Cheng watches the surging numbers with wide, stunned eyes, barely able to process the speed of their growth. This display of power prompts a puzzled Lian Yinning to ask our protagonist if he possesses a wide-range poison skill, as the devastation is absolute. Lin Luo calmly clarifies that his ability is actually contagious, which catches her attention. The Spirit Frost Maiden analyzes the situation and notes that since bear goblins are naturally resistant to toxins, the skill must be something far more potent than simple poison. Lin Luo praises her intelligence and confirms that he is using a disease-based skill rather than a chemical one. He explains that his mutation allows him to plant a virus that infects a target's cells almost instantly. As the virus spreads from one host to another, every fallen goblin now carries billions of pathogens. He notes that due to the sheer number of infected monsters, the viral load has reached a tipping point where the quantity has triggered a quality change. As a result, a dense green cloud of viral miasma has expanded to surround the entire floor of the tower. This horrific revelation causes Tang Cheng to sweat profusely, fearing the virus might consume him as well. Luckily, Lin Luo offers a playful reassurance that he is actively controlling the spread to protect his allies. However, his expression turns cold as he realizes that those who are not on his side will not be so fortunate. The scene shifts to the three saboteurs who are running through a different section of the tower, laughing about how Lin Luo's team has likely been eaten alive. The group leader urges his teammates to move faster, estimating they will reach the next floor in 10 minutes. Their arrogance vanishes when the environment suddenly darkens, leaving them confused by what looks like a sudden cloud cover. They look up in pure terror as a massive black shadow descends from the sky and crashes through the trees toward them. The black miasma quickly envelops the trio, causing them to cough violently as they struggle to breathe. With veins appearing on her skin, the female student screams in agony from a sudden, crushing headache. The leader collapses to the ground as the Black Death takes hold, realizing he must quit the trial immediately to avoid dying from the infection. Outside the tower, a group of instructors discusses the potential of this year's candidates. A high-ranking bald instructor notes that while the previous city record was 26 floors, the presence of 4 S-level professionals this year might push the limit to the 28th floor. The officials express a desperate hope for this new generation to grow quickly, given the increasing violence of monsters in distant territories and the recent death of a legendary senior professional. They discuss the decision to offer a rare world object as the first-place prize, clarifying that while it is a generous reward, the item is actually damaged and currently useless to high-level professionals. The conversation is interrupted when the bald instructor notices an eerie yellow and orange glow emanating from the 19th floor. He realizes something is wrong as a massive amount of poisonous fog begins to leak from that specific level. At the tower exit, several students are teleported out in a state of collapse, screaming for medical help as their antidotes are failing to stop a mysterious affliction. A medic examines the refugees and confirms they all fled from the 19th floor. While a female official is confused since the nearest poisonous monsters should be on the 26th floor, the medic points out that the symptoms do not match standard poisoning. Instead, the status bars show that the candidates are suffering from a viral illness. One of the instructors identifies the dark spots on the victims and realizes with horror that a plague has broken out. As the only monster capable of spreading such a disease is usually found on the 50th floor, the instructor begins to suspect that this chaos is actually Lin Luo's doing. Despite the gravity of the situation, the instructors find a silver lining in the fact that many elite candidates, especially the S ranks, have already moved past the 19th floor and are safe from the outbreak. On the 26th floor, Dongfeng He's team moves through a graveyard of insect monsters protected by a barrier. Yang Haoran praises the young master for his family's intelligence network, which allowed them to bring special items to nullify the local threats. Dongfeng, he remains determined to break the record by reaching the 28th floor, though he acknowledges that rivals like Murong Shuihen are likely keeping pace with him. He looks toward the distance with a sense of pity, assuming his victory is already guaranteed. Meanwhile, Murong Shuihen's team is struggling on a different floor as they are swarmed by hundreds of rocky monsters that seem to be specifically targeting them. While her teammates panic at the overwhelming numbers, a teammate named Sister May pretends to be exhausted to lure the others into a false sense of security. The Spirit Angel steps forward to become the main damage dealer, thanking her friend for helping her preserve her strength. Suddenly, Sister May reveals her betrayal by confessing that she smeared their bodies with a special honey that attracts aggressive monsters. Murong Shuihen and her male teammate are frozen in disbelief, asking why she would do such a thing. Sister May's face twists with jealousy and rage as she rants about how Murong was born with everything, from beauty to an S-level profession. She reveals that she made a secret deal with Dongfang He, who promised to marry her into his prestigious family if she helped him win the championship. She begs Murong to sacrifice herself for the sake of their friendship, convinced that this is her only chance to finally win something. Although the male teammate shouts at her for the betrayal, Sister Mei refuses to listen, claiming that any warnings about Dongfang He's deception are just lies born of jealousy. Murong Xuehen looks at her former friend with a mix of pity and stoicism before deciding her next move. Instead of trying to force her way through the horde, she prepares to exit the tower, recognizing they have already qualified for the individual competitions. She stands tall with her divine wings, determined to take the throne back from Dongfang He during the final matches. After successfully clearing the lower levels, our trio stands before the rocky entrance to the 20th floor, which looks like a massive, gaping mouth with purple eyes. Tang Chung is visibly excited since being with Lin Luo has made the climb effortless, allowing them to harvest experience points at an incredible rate. Lin Luo remains calm and reminds his friend that the real work is yet to begin, suggesting they move directly to the next level before the monsters even have a chance to respawn. This confidence leads Tang Cheng to joke about easily reaching the 50th floor just for fun. However, Lian Yining is more analytical and notes that while these skills are efficient, they must have a limit, likely related to magic power or the high magic defense of stronger monsters on higher floors. Our protagonist agrees with her assessment, clarifying that his abilities are specialized for enclosed spaces like secret realms where monsters are crowded together. He admits that in open areas with high air circulation, the effectiveness of his viral spread is significantly reduced. This leads the schoolflower to bring up another concern regarding the collateral damage of his wide-range skills. As the plague spreads so far, other candidates are being caught in the crossfire, which might ruin their results and cause them to resent the team. Tang Cheng tries to brush this off as self-defense, but the priest simply smiles and asks why he should care about offending others. He explains his philosophy that in a world of constant struggle, one must fight to survive. And if professionals cannot handle a minor setback like this, they have no hope of standing against actual monsters or aliens. This bold stance inspires his teammates, who both vow to stand by his side as they step through the portal to the next level. The team arrives on the 20th floor, a tropical plain filled with palm trees and reptilian beasts. To get things moving, boulders suddenly rain down from the sky as Tang Cheng uses a fallout technique to draw aggro. He acts completely deranged and aggressive, even gesturing rudely at the monsters to ensure they focus all their rage on him. This causes a massive swarm of flying insects and ground dwellers to chase him back toward the group. While sprinting for his life, Tang Cheng begs for the virus to be released, while Lin Luo jokingly remarks that his new equipment is so tough that any monster swallowing him would probably end up constipated. When a beast finally lunges at the boy, Lian Yining steps in with a blue ice barrier, using her frost magic to slice through the air and protect him. She is determined to let no one harm her friend as a massive army of monsters charges from the horizon. With total indifference, Lin Luo finally raises his staff and triggers a towering pillar of black energy known as the Black Death Outbreak, which obliterates everything in its path. Outside the tower, the atmosphere is tense as officials monitor the leaderboard. They note that Dongfang He and a swordsman named Chen Feng An have reached the 27th floor, breaking the city's previous records. While they celebrate the rise of these geniuses, they are disappointed that Murong Xuehen stopped at the 26th floor. Some instructors wonder if she had an accident, but others believe setbacks are necessary for a true genius to grow, comparing the situation to legendary figures who rose from commoner backgrounds despite being attacked by jealous rivals. This discussion is cut short when a panicked guard arrives to report that a mysterious poisonous cloud has appeared on the 19th floor and is rapidly spreading upward. In just 4 hours, the miasma has consumed everything up to the 24th floor, affecting over 3,000 candidates and leaving fewer than 100 elite students active in the upper levels. The officials suspect this isn't a natural boss, but a man-made disaster caused by a group of traitors known as the Fallen, who worship alien demon gods and live only to cause destruction. They fear these cultists are targeting the S-class professionals, but given the tower is blocked during exams, they can only hope the students are strong enough to fight back. Back inside on the 26th floor, the team emerges from a blue portal after another successful hunt. Tang Chung is ecstatic at having reached level 20 in record time, while Lian Yining has hit level 25. When they ask about his progress, Lin Luo reveals he has reached level 30, which has unlocked 4 new skills. He is momentarily stunned by the bizarre nature of his new arsenal, which includes reproductive excitation, genital warts, gonorrhea spread, and syphilis outbreak. Although he wonders if he can change these cruel mutations back to normal skills, he ultimately smirks with a perverted joy and decides to learn every single one of them. This dark expression worries his friends, and though Lian Yining asks what he learned, he tells her it is better if she doesn't know. To change the subject, she mentions that reaching level 30 means he can perform his second job transfer. Our boy realizes he doesn't have to wait as he already possesses a hidden job transfer book from his previous secret realm. He activates the item, causing a red ritual circle to manifest behind him. 2 unique hidden options appear in the air before him, forcing him to choose between becoming an S-rank evil doctor or a Dark Lord. The first is for the Dark Lord, an undead-themed profession that promises immense power but carries the heavy cost of turning him into a skeleton and permanently ruining his charisma. Lin Luo quickly rejects this option as he isn't comfortable with losing his human appearance and feels it doesn't align with his current skill set. Luckily, the second card reveals the Evil Doctor class, which excites him immediately. This profession focuses on non-responsible surgeries that cause random disabilities or organ transplants in others. He finds this incredibly appealing as he gets to experience the thrill of a blind box, where he has all the fun while his enemies bear the consequences. Upon choosing to become an evil doctor, a system notification confirms the job transfer and assigns Lin Luo a unique hidden quest called Silver Heart. To complete this mission, he is required to kill a silver-level humanoid boss and claim its heart within a 1-month time limit. Realizing the weight of this task, Lin Luo stands with his teammates near a portal and explains that they must now go their separate ways. Both Lian Yining and Tang Qing are shocked and immediately offer their help, but Lin Luo declines. He points out that finding a silver humanoid boss in the wild is nearly impossible since powerful guilds usually snatch them up, making the boss on the 30th floor of the tower his only viable target. He insists on going alone given that he believes a 3-person team is too big of a target for such a dangerous floor, and he doesn't want to be responsible for their safety during such a high-stakes fight. Tang Chung accepts the decision, noting that they have already made a fortune by reaching the 26th floor thanks to Lin Luo's help. However, as our hero turns to leave, Lian Yining stops him by grabbing his hand. She insists that he take her stand-in puppet, a rare one-time item that can absorb a lethal blow. Although Lin Luo initially refuses as he knows her family gave it to her to save her own life, the school flower looks at him with a flushed face and tells him his safety is the most important thing to her as a friend. She nearly confesses her romantic feelings in the heat of the moment, but stops herself, quickly urging Tang Qing to teleport out with her before things get more awkward. Left alone, the young priest reflects on the weight of her gift while preparing for his solo climb. The scene shifts to the 27th floor, which has become a nightmare of skeletal hellhounds. A group of students led by Yang Haran is struggling to survive the elite swarm and fears they will be killed if they don't find a way out. This desperation leads to a chance meeting with Dongfang He and another student named Pan Chen. Despite being rivals, they agree to cooperate to preserve their strength as they head toward the exit at Lava Lake. The combined team unleashes a massive display of magic and sword skills to carve a path through the hounds. When they reach the edge of the pit, a massive Hellhound King erupts from the lava, snarling with rage. Yang Haoran recoils in terror, wondering why the boss woke up early. Pan Chen realizes the boss was drawn out by Dongfang He's dragon pet, which shares the same fire attribute and looks like a perfect snack for the evolving king. Rather than fleeing, the 2 elite students leap into the air to engage the beast in a massive explosion of lightning and fire. Back outside the tower, Lian Yining is in a daze after touching Lin Luo's hand, feeling her heart race with excitement. Tang Qing notices her blushing and decides to tease her, officially calling her sister-in-law. When she protests, Tang Qing reveals that he found the love letter she wrote to Lin Luo years ago hidden deep in a drawer at his house. He explains that back then, Lin Luo was struggling with strange thoughts about going back to another world and dreaming, which prevented him from responding to her. Hearing this, the Ice Maiden realizes why Lin Luo took a long vacation that year and feels a deeper connection to his past. Their conversation is interrupted when they see the bloodied and exhausted Yang Haoran exiting the tower. When the yellow-haired student tries to approach Lian Yining with concern, Tang Qing furiously blocks his path. The knight tells him to get lost and stay away from his sister-in-law, leaving Yang Haoran completely stunned by the implication that the school flower is now taken. Tang Qing decides it is best to avoid the confrontation and urges Lian Yining to move toward a waiting area for Lin Luo. This dismissive attitude causes Yang Haoran's face to contort with rage as he demands to know exactly when the girl became family to a D-rank professional. Tang Qing mocks the angry student by pointing out how obvious their close relationship is, while Lian Yining turns away shyly before warning Yang Haoran that she will take action if he continues to scream. As the duo walks away, the antagonist seethes in the plaza, unable to accept that a priest he considers trash has earned the girl's respect, while his own presence only makes her angry. Driven by frustration and arrogance, Yang Haoran points an accusing finger and shouts that a D-rank healer could never compare to him. This insult forces Lian Yining to place an ice blade against his neck while Tang Qing aggressively grabs his wrist. The knight challenges Yang Haoran to open his eyes and look at the leaderboard, which reveals that Lin Luo is currently on the 27th floor. This sight causes the arrogant student to tremble in disbelief, as he cannot fathom how a priest could reach such a high floor alone, let alone carry a team to the 26th. The surrounding crowd of students begins to whisper in shock, questioning how a support class could possibly compete with S-rank professionals. While some suspect cheating, others wonder if the priest was actually the one providing the strength for the team. This public disturbance draws the attention of the city guard, who approach Yang Haran and inform him that the deputy city guard requires his presence. Soon after, the boy finds himself standing nervously in a grand pagoda hall before powerful elders and city officials. Although he is intimidated by these high-ranking figures, he listens as an official asks if he encountered any abnormalities, like a poisonous fog, during his retreat from the tower. Yang Haran explains that he did not see any fog, but he does report that the Hellhound King woke up early and was injured by his team before escaping. The officials analyze this report and realize that the Dongfang He team never encountered a virus, which suggests the Black Death was not a natural part of the tower. They begin to suspect the plague was brought in by a candidate or a member of the fallen cult. The discussion is interrupted when a masked guard rushes in to report that the virus has stopped spreading at the 26th floor. She further reveals that a new candidate named Lin Luo has reached the 27th floor. The news that a D-rank priest has achieved this feat leaves the council in total shock, as they believe such a climb is impossible for a healer without a powerful guide. Since they know Lin Luo was teamed with the Lian family's daughter, the officials initially assume she carried him, but they quickly realize even an A-rank student couldn't reach the 27th floor under these conditions. Yang Haran interrupts the meeting with a jealous outburst, insisting that Lin Luo is a cheater who should be punished for his impossible progress. One of the older officials remains calm, noting that while special items can help against monsters, they aren't enough to explain such a massive achievement. The council decides it is too early to label the boy a cultist, but they agree that a careful investigation into Lin Luo's background is necessary. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to the private quarters of Sister Qing, where she has summoned her niece for a private talk. The aunt winks and reveals that she has already deduced that the Black Death is actually one of Lin Luo's skills. She explains that since every candidate between the 19th and 25th floors was poisoned except for their team, and given the boy's history with secret realms, the culprit is obvious. Sister Qing warns a pale and shocked Lian Yining that once the chaos settles, people will eventually identify Lin Luo as the source of the plague. With many of the infected students belonging to powerful families who lost grades and rankings due to him, she predicts a massive revenge spree if the truth goes public. Lian Yining panics at the thought of her friend being targeted and asks for a way to protect him. Sister Qing points directly at her niece, explaining that she is the only one who can solve this problem. She outlines a plan that must be kept secret from the girl's father, whom she describes as a fool who would only interfere and stop them. Despite her embarrassment and a bright red face, the school flower clasps her hands to her chest with total resolve. She declares that she is willing to do whatever it takes to ensure Lin Luo's safety. The story shifts towards the main character. He stands on the 27th floor observing a pack of hellhounds behaving erratically due to his reproductive excitation skill. Lin Luo notes that the debuff is surprisingly effective at distracting the monsters, but the bizarre scene is suddenly interrupted by a massive fire geyser. From the flames, the dark-skinned Hellhound King emerges with a ferocious roar, leaving our hero surprised since the boss typically remains dormant. Upon closer inspection, he notices red gashes and deep injuries covering the monster's body. He realizes the Hellhound King was likely beaten by a previous team and retreated to the lava lake to recover, only to now take its frustration out on him. Lin Luo remains confident and raises his staff as green energy surround it, deciding that he will gladly finish off a boss that is already in a weakened state. As the monster gathers a red magical charge in its mouth for a powerful attack, our boy intervenes by casting Alzheimer's disease. This energy strikes the creature's head and causes the magical attack to fizzle out into smoke. As this specific mutation causes targets to forget their skills, it triggers a magical backlash that leaves the king vulnerable. Determined to kill the beast while it is weak, Lin Luo unleashes a sequence of multiple strikes including skin explosion, blood fever, and pain intensification. He notes that this specific combination of agony is a special package reserved for bosses. The Hellhound King screams as its skin cracks and its body is consumed by the mutations, but despite the heavy damage, it manages to let out a weak snarl. To our hero's surprise, the monster suddenly turns and leaps away in an attempt to flee. He initially thinks the dog is entering a berserker state but quickly realizes he has been tricked by a sneaky animal pretending to go berserk just to run away. Lin Luo refuses to let his prey escape and fires a stream of dark purple energy to trigger mental confusion. Once the energy hits, the Hellhound King becomes dazed and mentally disturbed, causing it to lose its authority over its pack. The surrounding smaller hellhounds become confused and then aggressive, lunging at their own leader and tearing it apart in a massive explosion of fire. With the boss defeated, a system notification confirms that Lin Luo has reached level 31 and earned significant experience along with new attribute and skill points. He surveys the loot, finding valuable magic crystals, a flame shield scroll, and a silver-level burning dagger. He is pleased with the haul and suspects he might be the first to kill this boss, since its tendency to run away makes it a difficult target for most. Looking up at the fire-filled sky, our hero realizes there are only 2 hours left before the exam ends. He sets his sights on a distant portal, knowing he must reach the 30th floor immediately to complete his job change mission. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to a luxury hotel room where Murong Shuihen is informed by her assistant that her former teammate Li Mei has disappeared. She is not surprised and labels the girl a fool for her betrayal. Due to this disloyalty, she orders her assistant to ruin Li Mei's family financially and exile them from the city within 3 days. When the assistant offers an update on the tower rankings, Murong initially dismisses it, assuming Dongfang He is in the lead as usual. However, she is stunned to learn that a D-rank priest named Lin Luo is currently on the 28th floor alongside the top S-rank heirs. She remembers seeing him with Lian Yining and quickly connects the dots regarding the mysterious poisonous fog that appeared in the tower. She suspects the virus was actually Lin Luo's doing and reflects on Lian Yining's kind nature, realizing the girl must have seen great potential in the boy. While the assistant wonders if the priest is a serious threat, Murong Shuihen touches her chin with a playful smirk. She concludes that while a simple virus might have its limits, the idea of a D-rank priest having even more tricky skills actually makes her feel excited for the upcoming competition. Outside the Tower of Trials, a crowd of students watches the leaderboard in total disbelief. Since a lowly priest has reached the 28th floor solo, the onlookers assume he is cheating with high-level items provided by the prestigious Lian family. While Lian Yining tries to defend his honor, Tang Qing tells her it is useless to argue with people who simply cannot accept reality. Nearby, instructor Sister Qing realizes that at this rate, our protagonist might do more than just break the Binhai city record. He might actually surpass the students from the imperial capital and become a national champion. When a curious Lian Yining asks if the students from the capital are truly that strong, Sister Qing confirms that they are. She explains that while the local record was only 26 floors, the imperial capital once saw a student reach the 29th floor. This record holder was a famous necromancer named Zheng Meisen, who originally hailed from Binhai City. Unfortunately, a tragedy struck the Zheng family years ago, forcing the survivors to flee the city and become vassals for other clans. When Lian Yining notes that the name sounds familiar, Sister Qing quickly shuts down the topic, preferring to keep the past buried. The instructor then surprises the duo by mentioning that if our hero maintains his momentum, he could win the champion's reward known as a world wonder. Given that neither Tang Qing nor Lian Yining had heard of this legendary prize, they are left in a state of shock. Their conversation is interrupted by instructor Li Yu, who approaches to congratulate the students on reaching the 26th floor. However, her tone quickly turns serious as she warns them to be careful. With their impossible progress, the education department, the city council, and several powerful families are all aggressively seeking information about them. Tang Chung gives a confident thumbs up, explaining that Lin Luo already planned for this and told his teammates to blame everything on him. Inside the tower, the environment on the 28th floor has shifted into a rugged mountain range filled with level 40 harpies and level 42 bloodthirsty willow trees. Dongfang. He is crouched on the ground, covered in dirt and wounds. He is breathing heavily as the monsters here are far more difficult than he anticipated, and his dragon pet was nearly killed in the struggle. Despite his exhaustion, his stubborn pride pushes him forward. He vows to surpass the record set by Zheng Meisen to prove that the Dongfang family is the best in the world. As he crawls toward the territory of the ice toads, a blonde harpy spots him and prepares to attack. Strangely, the harpy suddenly stops midair and turns its attention toward something else in the distance. Dongfang. He is confused, wondering if another person has been found. When he looks through the trees, he sees a harpy pinned to the ground and multiple others being restrained by the red tentacles of the bloodthirsty willow trees. He initially assumes the monsters are fighting each other, but upon closer inspection, the scene looks far more disturbing. The harpies are gagged and tied up by the vines in a way that looks like a group perversion game rather than a battle. Lin Luo then walks calmly into the frame, his white robes completely untouched by the chaos. Watching from behind a rock, Dongfang. He realizes that this candidate is likely the one responsible for the bizarre scene. Our guy looks at the monsters with a casual expression, noting that his reproductive excitation skill is even more terrifying than he thought since it works across different species. Although he would like to stay in farm experience while the monsters are distracted, he realizes he is running out of time and needs to reach the next floor. Seeing the priest move forward, Dongfang He's face turns murderous. He cannot understand how a support class could have such twisted control techniques and assumes Lin Luo must have a rare hidden profession. Driven by a desperate need to win, the young master decides he cannot let our boy advance. He prepares to force his injured dragon pet into one last stand, convinced that he must be the champion at any cost. The scene then shifts to a frozen mountain range where level 43 ice-poisoned toads gather around a lake. Lin Luo stands at the edge of the water, shivering as the temperature drops to 100 degrees. Since entering the water rashly would mean freezing to death, he realizes he needs a way to resist the cold. As priests are technically mages, he decides to use the Flame Shield skill scroll he looted from the Hellhound King. As he prepares to learn the defensive spell, he can't help but wonder exactly what kind of dark mutation this fire magic will turn into. The process triggers a dark mutation that grants him the Penicillin Phage antibody shield. As this skill is a passive mutant ability, it begins to devour the elemental power of the Sub-Zero environment, generating permanent cold antibodies for his body. This immediate adaptation causes Lin Luo to feel the biting chill fade away, making him realize that he can now survive extreme conditions like magma pools or acid seas. While he runs across the frozen landscape toward the next floor, Dongfang, he remains hidden behind him, struggling to breathe in the intense cold. Given that he does not have Lin Luo's unique resistance, he is forced to rely on expensive flamestones just to keep his body temperature stable. Watching our hero march through the snow without effort causes Dongfang He to feel a surge of desperate rage. To regain his advantage, he turns to his red baby dragon and forces it to swallow a green elixir. This medicine is designed to double the creature's strength by burning its blood, though it carries the heavy cost of draining the dragon's life essence. Driven by a ruthless need to be the sole champion, the young master commands his pet to launch a lethal sneak attack. As the dragon lunges through the air, Lin Luo stops in his tracks, surprised to see a dragon in a territory that should only contain ice toads. He quickly identifies the creature as the pet of the famous candidate Dongfang He, but since he has no personal grudge against the guy, he is confused as to why he is being targeted. Luckily, Lin Luo does not waste time overthinking the situation and immediately materializes several lizardman warriors to meet the threat. Although the dragon's claws easily tear through the summons in a massive eruption of fire, the sacrifice of the warriors provides Lin Luo with enough time to observe the creature's high defenses. He attempts to retaliate with a skin explosion, but realizing the dragon is too sturdy for a quick kill, he decides on a more tactical approach. Our protagonist channels a dark energy through his staff to trigger mental confusion, striking the dragon directly in the head. This causes the pet to become dazed and disturbed, leading it to lose its sense of direction and fly straight back toward its master, Dongfang. He is left in total shock when his own pet crashes into the rocks right in front of him. While he tries to shout commands to help the dragon recover its senses, Lin Luo takes a position on a high cliff to look down at his attacker. Seeing that the dragon's high resistance allows it to snap out of the confusion quickly, our boy decides to shift his focus away from the pet and deal with the master directly. He suddenly disappears from the cliffside and reappears right behind Dongfang He, catching the young master completely off guard. Although he is startled, he mocks the priest for engaging in close-range combat and vows that coming to this floor will be the last mistake of Lin Luo's life. To end the fight, the Dragon Knight winds up a powerful punch causing shards of ice to erupt everywhere. He then leaps into the air and wraps himself in a yellow energy, launching a signature strike that consumes the entire area in a gargantuan blast. Believing he has vaporized his rival, Dongfang, he stands over the charred earth and laughs manically, boasting that no hidden profession can ever hope to compete with his elite class. However, his triumph instantly turns to terror as Lin Luo appears behind him, completely unscathed. Our hero's calm question about the dragon leaves the young master frozen, realizing his ultimate strike didn't leave a single scratch. Since his dragon pet lies defeated and motionless in the snow, Dongfang, he stands in a state of absolute horror, screaming in fury at the sight. Lin Luo looks down at the enraged dragon rider with a cold gaze. When the young master demands to know what was done to him, Lin Luo menacingly suggests that the boy might lose the ability to scream if his tongue were ripped out. Dongfang, he tries to maintain his pride by claiming the priest only took advantage of his previous injuries. He issues a final threat to tear him apart in the upcoming individual competition before activating emergency return to escape. Lin Luo watches him vanish, noting that it is embarrassing to act tough while fleeing. However, the priest reveals he has left a secret gift for the dragon cub, though he quickly refocuses as completing his job change is more important. Outside the tower, the reporter Bing Bing watches someone has left the tower and informs the public that only one candidate remains inside. The crowd of students in the plaza gathers around the leaderboard, whispering with hostile skepticism. Many refuse to believe a D-class priest could outlast a dragon rider, assuming Lin Luo is a cheater who will be eliminated next. Others express a deep desire for revenge as they were tortured by the Black Death Plague during their own trials. Their speculation is cut short when Dongfang He suddenly materializes in their midst, tattered and panting. The students are shocked to see the elite heir eliminated first, but their confusion turns to disgust as they notice something wrong with his dragon. The red dragon appears extremely nauseous and suddenly releases a massive, foul geyser of green liquid over the entire crowd. Due to this disgusting eruption, the surrounding students are drenched in stinging slime and forced to beg for respirators to survive the intense stench. Dongfang He is left in a state of pure, horrified humiliation, realizing that Lin Luo must have sabotaged his pet. He vows to get his revenge tomorrow while struggling not to vomit himself. Meanwhile, at the Dongfang family residence, the patriarch Daizong meets with an arrogant ancestor who is certain that no one can challenge the young master for the top rank. When Daizong mentions that a D-level priest is still in the tower, the ancestor dismisses the news as secretive tactics and mocks Daizong's own A-rank potential. This lecture is interrupted by a beep from a watch, which delivers the shocking notification that the heir has been eliminated and publicly embarrassed by his dragon stench. Both men are left pale and stunned by the news of this unprecedented failure. Back on the 28th floor, Lin Luo encounters a level 43 ice-poison toad known for its ability to self-destruct. He initiates the fight with a skin explosion, causing the creature to swell grotesquely. As the toad prepares to detonate and take the priest with it, Lin Luo calmly activates his Alzheimer's mutation. This causes the monster to forget its own skills, leading it to shrivel and die silently instead of exploding. Since he prevented the blast, Lin Luo is safe to collect the experience points and examine the loot orbs that materialize in the snow. He discovers a rare item called an ice poison bead, which claims to increase spirit power by 1 point when swallowed. This discovery makes him skeptical since most attribute-boosting treasures have a strict consumption limit to prevent professionals from scrubbing the tower clean. After a moment of logical deduction, he has an epiphany. He realizes that as the toads normally explode upon death, they destroy the beads in the process. High-level professionals usually ignore these lower floors, while low-level ones lack the specific control skills to stop the self-destruction. Realizing he has stumbled upon an unexplored treasure trove, Lin Luo decides that this opportunity is well worth the effort. Lin Luo delivers a massive skim explosion strike that shrivels an ice-poisoned toad into a blackened husk. Since he is perched on a high ledge, he is able to watch the carnage until a sudden blast of ice spikes tears through the air toward him. Luckily, the young priest anticipates the strike and moves just in time. The impact shatters the rock where he stood, sending debris flying. Once safe, he receives a notification for killing the level 43 monster. He realizes that while he gained significant experience, the creature dropped no materials. This confirms his theory that preventing the toads from self-destructing is the only way to harvest their valuable beads. Determined to move quickly, Lin Luo spots a valley filled with dozens of monsters. He leaps from an icy pillar into the swarm and unleashes waves of dark energy. As he strikes them down, the noise of the battle draws even more creatures to his position. He is pleased by this as it allows him to gather a large group for a more efficient slaughter. He holds out his hand to form a pulsing sphere of dark energy, while the surrounding corpses begin emitting a dark mist. As he prevented these toads from exploding, he is able to use their bodies as incubators for a massive load of the Black Death virus. As the air becomes saturated with pathogens, our hero triggers a Black Death outbreak. A wall of black smoke consumes the area, resulting in a flood of experience notifications that push him to level 36. Although he is exhausted by the energy required to kill such high-level monsters, his efforts are rewarded with nearly 250 ice poison beads. He immediately begins absorbing the treasures, watching as golden energy swirls around him. Since each bead increases his spirit energy, his mental power quickly doubles, making him feel refreshed and significantly stronger. This surge in power causes the demonic rune in his possession to activate. The item absorbs the surrounding energy and souls, unlocking new effects that boost his attributes and grant him the ability to transform into any creature he has killed. Most importantly, it now provides massive mana recovery, removing any future concerns about energy consumption. Just as he realizes the potential of this upgrade, a massive shadow falls over him. The Ice Poison Toad King emerges, a level 45 boss with lethal freezing abilities. Instead of fleeing, Lin Luo decides to test his new powers. Using the rune, he transforms into a small white squirrel to zip behind the confused boss, noting that this stealth capability is perfect for assassinations. Lin Luo notes that the viral miasma in the air will eventually kill the creature on its own. However, since he is short on time, he decides to accelerate the process. He leaps into the air and targets the king's rear with a specialized combo. By casting his skin explosion and diarrhea-inducing mutations on the beast's backside, he triggers a messy, agonizing explosion. The Toad King is severely wounded and leaks energy, but it retaliates by firing a beam of freezing light. This powerful attack creates a wall of jagged ice that blocks our hero's path. Realizing a direct hit from the beam would be fatal, the young priest remains cautious as the boss attempts another strike. He spins his staff and unleashes his Alzheimer's mutation, striking the king in the face. This causes the monster to become dazed and forget its next move. Seizing the opening, Lin Luo jumps toward the boss and triggers a skin explosion directly on its eyes. Given that the king is now blinded and unable to use its light-based skills, the momentum of the fight shifts completely. Dark, flaming energy outbreaks violently around our protagonist as he prepares his final assault to end the battle. The creature lets out a desperate cry and it takes last breaths, prompting Lin Luo to realize it is attempting to self-destruct. To prevent this, he raises his hand and unleashes a shockwave of energy, By using his Alzheimer's mutation, he strikes the boss's head and forces it to forget how to trigger the explosion. A massive burst of black energy marks the final defeat of the monster, and a flood of notifications confirms the kill. Because of this victory, our hero gains 100,000 experience points and levels up to 36. He also receives a horde of rare items including the Ice King's Gland, a bead, 5 skill points, a whip, and a new skill book called Frozen Light. Linluo watches with mild surprise as the loot orbs orbit his body. He examines the blue skill book and realizes it contains the same magic that previously froze his own attacks, so he decides to learn it immediately. The learning process triggers a mutation that transforms the spell into ALS spread. Linluo recognizes the name from his original world as an incurable disease, and he notes that as a control skill, it will be incredibly useful in his hands. He then turns his attention to the Ice King's bead, noting that it provides spirit power and a super ability usually reserved for epic professionals. After he consumes the bead, blue energy pulses through him, and the system attempts to grant him a bone-piercing ability. However, a glitch occurs, and he instead awakens a skill called Adrenaline Rush. Intense blue sparks dance around his body as he realizes this ability scales with his high spirit power, providing him with enough physical strength to no longer fear close-range combat. Outside the tower, the atmosphere is filled with mockery as students watch a battered Dongfang. He received medical attention. The observers find it hilarious that the elite dragon rider was humiliated by the stench of his own pet. Driven to the brink of insanity by this public shame, the young master stares with bloodshot eyes and vows to kill Linluo during the next day's matches. The crowd's attention is suddenly diverted back to the rankings where they see that Linluo has already reached the 29th floor. They are baffled by how a priest could move so fast, with some even suspecting that a high-level professional must be secretly helping him. The leaderboard then flashes with a new update showing that he has reached the 30th floor. Tangcheng and Lian Yining celebrate wildly, noting that he has officially broken the long-standing record held by Zheng Meisen. This achievement stuns the city officials, who realize the real genius of this generation is a priest, and decide they must protect this rising star. In a hotel, Murong Shuihan watches the news. She concludes that Linluo must have many hidden trump cards to have reached the top of the national rankings. Rather than feeling threatened, she smiles and decides to change her plans. She figures that if she can bring him into the Murong family, she won't mind if he keeps the World Wonder Prize for himself. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to the dark, bat-filled interior of the 30th floor. Linluo walks confidently through the cavern, explaining that he had to rush through the previous floor by using mental confusion to start a massive gang fight among the monsters. This distraction allowed him to sneak past the chaos and save time. Since he only has 20 minutes left on the clock, he decides to use the local sinking bats to find the boss. He triggers a skin explosion that sends the monsters falling in a dark cloud of energy. To move even faster, he uses his demonization rune to transform into a white bat. He zips past the confused monsters, searching desperately for a humanoid target to satisfy his job change mission. He eventually discovers a vast cemetery filled with thousands of gravestones. Descending toward a stone platform, he identifies humanoid monsters known as blood slaves and blood servants. He spots a dark stone coffin guarded by 2 elite servants and deduces that the boss must be sleeping inside. To avoid a long fight, Linluo transforms back into his human form mid-air and readying his staff. He casts mental confusion on the guards, causing them to attack each other so he can sprint past them toward the coffin. He reaches the target and sees a man with silver hair in a high-collared suit, identified by the system as the silver-level Fallen Baron. Realizing the boss is still asleep, our protagonist sees a perfect opportunity for a preemptive strike. He leaps high into the air and slams his palm downward, unleashing a massive energy blast that consumes the entire coffin in a violent explosion. He expects an instant kill given the power of the strike, but as the smoke clears, he looks down with a face full of pure shock and disbelief. Because his opponent is a high-level entity, he remains cautious, suspecting that the initial blast wouldn't be enough to finish the job. This movement triggers a horrific transformation as dark blood and smoke begin to rise from the ground, coalescing back into the Baron's tall, silver-haired form. Watching the liquid reorganize into a physical body, Linluo realizes that standard combat methods are useless against a monster that can reconstruct its own flesh. The Baron throws his head back and lets out a monstrous, wide-mouthed scream that creates a physical shockwave. This sound attack is so fast and powerful that it blows our hero backward, forcing him to acknowledge the creature's immense speed. As the monster's shadow looms over him, he finds himself pressed against the ground in a dire position. The sheer pressure of the situation manifests as a weight of tormented spirits, leaving him with no choice but to tap into his newest ability. Linluo's silhouette suddenly transforms into a black form connected by golden constellations as he activates his adrenaline rush. This surge of energy is so intense that the young priest feels a manic level of power, granting him the speed necessary to dodge the Baron's follow-up strikes with ease. In response to this new threat, the boss roars and causes 2 shadowy blood clones to split from his body. Although these clones possess half the strength of the original, Lin Luo slides across the battlefield and evades them effortlessly, mocking their lack of speed. The battlefield erupts into a massive explosion of dark red blood flames, but the Baron emerges from the fire with a menacing grin, seemingly unbothered. Luckily, our boy is already protected by a shimmering resistance shield that absorbs the impact. Taking the initiative, the young priest unleashes a spinning vortex that strikes the boss with a massive discharge of energy. The boss struggles against the shadows, vibrating with energy as he tries to force his body back together. Lin Luo stands back to analyze the situation, realizing that as long as the Baron has access to blood, he can remain functionally invincible through regeneration. This problem leads him to look at the fluid-based bodies of the clones, giving him the idea to test a different approach. He summons a rain of crosses and needles known as the ALS spread. Instead of simple damage, these needles pierce the blood shadows and pin them to the rocks, causing the clones to shriek in agony. Our hero smiles as he notices the blood shadows turning into solid stone-like statues wherever the needles struck. He deduces that while the virus itself might not kill a vampire, the specific blood clotting symptom associated with the mutation is a perfect counter to a creature made of liquid. The Baron roars in a total fury, but Lin Luo simply fires another barrage of needles. To avoid being turned into a statue, the boss is forced to twist his body and sever his own arm before the clotting can spread. Lin Luo watches with a cold expression, acknowledging that the boss is smart enough to sacrifice a limb to survive. However, he remains unfazed and summons a massive ring of hundreds of needles to surround the area, wondering aloud how many more parts the Baron is willing to lose. To end the stalemate, a giant teal cross descends from the sky and traps the Baron inside. The young priest walks up to the captive boss and notes that while the Baron could normally turn into blood to escape, he has a counter for that as well. By pointing his staff at the cross, Lin Luo triggers a violent eruption of energy. He combines the blood fever and pain intensification mutations, aiming to burn the monster's blood away from the inside out to see if its immortality can survive being completely incinerated. A massive explosion signals the end of the fallen Baron, leaving Lin Luo standing before a collection of system notifications. Since he successfully defeated the high-level boss, he earns a massive 150,000 experience points and reaches level 40. This milestone grants him significant increases to his attributes along with 10 standard skill points and a rare gold skill point. He is left panting from the intensity of the struggle, noting that while his adrenaline ability provides excellent close combat power, the physical side effects are draining. As he recovers, he turns his attention to the floating rewards, specifically focusing on a precious gold skill point. He explains that these points are normally restricted to special quests or boss kills, and are the only way to push a skill past its level 7 limit. With survival being his primary concern, he decides to invest his points into his antibody shield. He spends 7 standard points to reach level 7, and then consumes his gold point to hit level 8. This upgrade triggers a special effect that manifests as a small winged creature known as a penicillin elf. This sentient companion not only enhances his defensive shield, but can also learn his mutation skills. Lin Luo is thrilled by this development, realizing the elf will serve as a powerful assistant. He names the little creature Green as they begin to walk through the cemetery. Next, he examines the rare drops from the Baron, which include a beating vampire core and a vial of essence. The core serves as a substitute heart and is necessary for his job transfer, while the essence is a transformation prop that can turn a human into a half-vampire. He reflects on how such items allow professionals to gain alien attributes and skills, though they come with permanent weaknesses to sunlight and fire. He decides to keep the essence for now, even though the drawbacks seem too high. He also acquires gold-level equipment called Blood Wings and the Eye of Vampire, which significantly boost his damage absorption and spell penetration. While handling his loot, his hand accidentally slips on a skill book titled First Embrace. Even though he does not meet the vampire bloodline requirements, his unique mutation ability overrides the system's limitations. As a result, the forbidden spell mutates into the T-virus infection. Our boy is paralyzed with shock, recognizing the virus from his previous life as a world-ending threat that turns organisms into zombies. He realizes that in a world full of high-level monsters and professionals, an uncontrolled outbreak could be catastrophic. As he currently lacks a way to control the infected, he decides this skill is far too dangerous to use and must be kept in reserve. With only 5 minutes left before the exam concludes, he uses the vampire core to complete his hidden mission. Intense energy surges into him as he officially changes his profession to the only hidden class of its kind, the Evil Doctor. This transformation grants him additional gold skill points and 2 unique items, non-responsible surgery and a specialized scalpel. He embraces his new identity, realizing that as a doctor who views life as a plaything, he is far removed from a traditional priest. Outside the tower, a crowd waits as the timer ticks down. While some students speculate that he might be trapped by high-level monsters, the reporter Bing Bing praises him as a hard-working role model for the city. This public flattery amuses Tang Cheng and Lian Yining, who know he rarely studies seriously. Meanwhile, several powerful organizations and families begin plotting to recruit or target him. A gray-haired man orders his subordinates to make contact first, even though they find no prestigious background in Lin Luo's files. At the same time, the deputy city guard learns that various families and angry candidates are planning to seek revenge for the plague he caused earlier. Given that the boy lacks a powerful family to protect him like the other geniuses, the official orders 2 elite guardians to ensure his safety against the fallen cult. Our hero finally emerges as Bing Bing announces him as the first-place winner, but his victory is immediately met with hostility. A group of students charges forward, screaming that he ruined their exam results with his virus and demanding a fight. This confrontation is cut short when Lian Yining sprints through the mob at high speed. Before our boy can react, the school flower leaps onto him and pulls him into a passionate kiss. This sudden display of affection leaves the new evil doctor in a state of total shock as the crowd watches on in disbelief. Several boys in the crowd realize that this girl is a member of the prestigious Leon family, leading them to assume that Lin Luo has the backing of a powerful clan. This realization immediately changes the narrative, as the students believe his bold behavior in the tower was fueled by the support of such a high-level household. Luckily, the intervention serves its purpose, but the school flower looks somber and resolute as she finally breaks the kiss. She looks down with moist eyes and blushing cheeks, leaving Lin Luo standing in a mix of confusion and realization. Rather than staying to explain, she suddenly turns her back and tells him to go home and rest before jogging away toward the city. This leaves the boy stunned in the middle of the crowd, wondering exactly what just happened. As night falls over the gritty urban landscape of the city, Lin Luo and Tang Cheng walk together through a narrow, dim street. Tang Cheng is buzzing with excitement and asks our boy about the taste of the kiss, noting that the usually conservative goddess was surprisingly bold. Lin Luo remains grounded and explains that she only did that to protect him by creating a social shield to block the trouble from the angry crowd. Strangely, he senses a presence and looks upward toward the wires stretching above the street. His intuition is correct, as a man with spiky orange hair and red-tinted sunglasses is standing on a high-tension wire watching them. The man is impressed that a kid could detect him, but notes that such talent is not enough to save him. He reveals that he was sent by the head of the Lian family to deliver a harsh message, warning the young priest to stop dreaming of a relationship with the girl. He mockingly labels our boy a toad trying to eat swan meat, but Lin Luo remains defiant and asks what would happen if he insisted on pursuing her anyway. Nearby, 2 city guardians observe the tense encounter. While the male guardian wonders if they should intervene, the female guardian dismisses the idea, insisting they are not nannies for the students. However, she suddenly freezes as she senses a terrifying aura descending from the sky. A massive sphere of dark green and black mist slams into the alley, trapping everyone inside. The Guardians recognize this immediately as the work of the fallen cult, and realize that these villains are moving much faster than anticipated. Since the skill resembles the power of a legendary epic-level professional, the Guardians analyze the mist and conclude it is a special item containing a portion of the Lord of the Dark Mist's power. They are baffled that such a high-level resource would be used to target a D-rank professional like Lin Luo. The male guardian feels a deep sense of shame as they allowed the boy to be captured right under their noses despite orders from the deputy city guard to protect him. To fix the situation, the guardians power up their energy to break the barrier. They hope the man from the Lian family can hold out for a few minutes while they attack the blocked space with all their might from the outside. Inside the void-like mist, the man in red glasses summons a massive red axe and stands back-to-back with the boys. Tang Cheng is sweating in a panic, recalling that the Lord of the Dark Mist was a top-tier powerhouse a century ago. He cannot understand why such a legendary figure would target mere minions like them. The man in red glasses tells him to shut up and stay close, promising to handle the threat for the sake of Lian Yining while they search for a weak spot in the fog. Unfortunately, their escape is blocked when a woman with green hair and black-clawed armor named Master Xiaoman steps out of the shadows. She is flanked by hooded monsters and reveals that she brought a special artifact created by her lord specifically to ensure no one escapes. Enraged by the presence of the cultists, Master Xiaoman remains completely bored by the assault, noting that a gold-ranked fighter is barely a challenge for her. She commands her monstrous subordinate, Wolf 13, to play with the attacker, leading the giant gray beast to lunge through the mist to intercept the charge. The beast's momentum is violently halted by a collision with the man in red glasses' barrier, triggering an explosion of ice-like shards. As the debris settles, Master Xiaoman appears and addresses our protagonist by name. Claiming she has worked hard to find him, she invites Lin Luo to join her organization, the Night Watch. boasting of its excellent benefits. Because of this sudden invitation, Tang Cheng becomes visibly panicked and aggressive, gesturing wildly at the woman while warning the fallen cultists not to come any closer. Lin Luo maintains a stoic, questioning if the Night Watch is simply another name for the fallen organization. Xiaoman walks forward with confidence, arguing that the term fallen is just a derogatory label used by society to cast them out. She leans in close to Lin Luo and mockingly places a finger under his chin, insisting that her group is actually the real savior of the world. She explains their philosophy, stating that they believe in and embrace the evil god as the only way to sustain the world and find a new future. Lin Luo remains entirely unimpressed by this logic and asks why they are specifically targeting him. Xiaoman reveals that one of the 13 masters of the Night Watch is an old man with poison abilities who is impressed by our boy's control over poisonous mist. This master apparently wants to take the young priest on as a closed disciple. Tang Cheng looks at his friend with a mixture of worry and disbelief, but Lin Luo quickly reassures him that he has no intention of being in cahoots with such people. This rejection causes Xiaoman's expression to turn cold immediately. As she loses her patience, a hooded figure in a gray cloak known as Ghost 27 begins to descend from above. Xiaoman declares that Lin Luo no longer has a choice and commands Ghost 27 to capture him. The hooded figure reaches out with a gnarled, pale hand, laughing with malice as he promises that a man named Old Man Gu has ways to force the boy into submission. Ghost 27 attempts to channel a surge of sickly green energy into the ground to summon underworld ghosts to lock our hero up. Strangely, the attacker suddenly freezes in place, his eyes glazing over with confusion. Because he has been struck by an unseen force, Ghost 27 forgets the next steps of his own summoning spell. This confusion is followed by a sudden blast of energy erupting from his own body, causing the cloaked figure to throw his head back and shriek in agony. Our protagonist stands tall with his staff, a dark purple aura expanding beneath him, as he warns his enemies that taking him for a fool will only lead to pain. It is revealed that he has used his Alzheimer's disease mutation to disrupt the enemy's mind. As a result, Ghost 27 collapses to the ground, clutching his head while his summoned ghosts dissipate into nothingness. Xiaoman watches this failure with pure disgust, labeling her subordinate as trash and assuming he suffered a simple spell backlash. Determined to finish the job herself, she assumes a combat stance and commands several massive demonic pink flowers with toothy maws to lunge at the group. Although Tang Cheng screams for his friend to run, Lin Luo remains perfectly still as the monsters close in. He channels a new energy to trigger mental confusion, which allows him to disappear and reappear inches away from Xiaoman's face. She is taken completely off guard by a priest engaging in close combat, but reacts instinctively by charging her hands with dark energy. She strikes out with a lethal intent, and an explosion of tendrils appears to wrap around our boy, cutting into his body and causing a loud, pained scream to ring out. Xiaoman laughs hysterically, convinced that she has pulverized the boy and proven the superiority of her power. However, her laughter stops abruptly when she looks down to find that the mangled body at her feet is actually Ghost 27, not Lin Luo. Her own subordinate groans in agony, asking why she attacked him. Xiaoman looks toward the shadows and realizes she has been tricked by a sophisticated illusion. Lin Luo stands unharmed in the distance, watching her with a piercing and cold stare. This display of power leads Xiaoman to realize that Lin Luo is using high-level mind manipulation or dark priest control skills, concluding that he is absolutely not the D-rank professional he appears to be. Master Xiaoman realizes with growing frustration that she was completely outplayed by our boy since he used a clever feint to trick her. Enraged by the loss of her guard, she vows to eliminate the young priest and unleashes a massive surge of dark energy known as the Zhuan Wood Kun realm. Due to this powerful technique, a violent explosion lights up the sky, which Tang Cheng and Lin Luo observe from a safe distance on a nearby cliff. Our protagonist remains perfectly composed while his friend worries about the scale of the attack. Tang Cheng fears they will be exhausted just trying to evade such an intense skill, but Lin Luo calmly assures him that the woman will actually be the first to die. While Master Xiaoman laughs down at our hero and mocks him for seemingly having to scramble to survive, the ground beneath him continues to crack with energy. She challenges the boy to show his supposed arrogance, but her triumph is cut short when dark green veins and spots suddenly crawl across her skin. The cult leader is frozen in pure shock as she realizes she has been infected by a virus despite keeping a safe distance. Luckily, the small blue penicillin elf known as Little Green appears to trigger the Black Death outbreak. As the infection takes hold, Master Xiaoman collapses into a shadowy void with her consciousness fading, unable to comprehend how she was defeated. Tang Cheng watches the high-level enemy fall in disbelief and asks what happened, to which Lin Luo notes that the woman was just as confused as he is. He then turns his attention toward the rising fire and smoke on the other side of the battlefield. Although he isn't particularly fond of the man in red glasses, he decides to help him since the fallen are their common enemy. Nearby, the man in red glasses is engulfed in a yellow flame aura while battling the gray beast, Wolf 13. He becomes furious when the beast seems distracted, but the wolf is actually trembling as a result of a sudden, intense pain in his stomach. Wolf 13 describes the sensation as a colossal flood about to burst forth, leading him to scream for a bathroom in total humiliation. With the monster being launched into the air by this biological crisis, the man is able to deliver a final red energy slash that clears the battlefield. The man calmly adjusts his sunglasses, satisfied with the victory. He then heads toward our hero's position to offer help, only to find that the strongest of the three fallen has already been dealt with. He becomes highly analytical, realizing it is bizarre for a student to kill such a powerful enemy, especially after witnessing the strange behavior of the wolf beast. When he asks about his class, Lin Luo simply replies that he is nothing special, just a priest. Meanwhile, two other professionals are running toward the site, exhausted from the effort. Seeing the dark mist dispersing, they assume Lin Luo has already been killed and prepare to avenge him. However, when they enter the clearing, they freeze in total shock at the sight of the defeated cultists. They recognize the fallen enemies as famous members of the Night Watch and cannot believe that such notorious villains have been taken down. Amidst the carnage, our boy stands calmly and asks the bewildered newcomers who they are. The female guardian shows her badge and asks for a report on what happened inside the mist. Instead of helping, the man from the Lian family dismisses the inquiry and walks away, leaving the two students alone with the officials. While Tang Cheng is about to explain the truth, Lin Luo quickly steps in to cover his tracks. He maintains a calm smile and lies to the guardians, claiming they only survived because the Lian family protected them from the cultists. The guardians exchange a skeptical look because they find the story hard to believe, yet the female officer decides not to press for the truth. She lets the students go with a warning to stay indoors while the cultists are active. As the boys depart, the male guardian questions why they allowed such an obvious lie to pass. His partner explains that they cannot force information from a victim who refuses to speak, especially when their primary job is protection. Looking at the unconscious Master Xiaoman, she realizes that because the captive has epic-level backing, the case has become too dangerous for them to handle alone. This realization forces the duo to leave the scene immediately to report the escalation to the deputy city guard. Meanwhile, Tang Cheng is energized by meeting the authorities, which prompts our protagonist to reflect on the dual nature of the Guardians. While they serve as the kingdom's official military protectors, their power is also used to monitor and restrict the freedom of independent professionals. Because of this control, many powerful families harbor a deep resentment toward these agents. When his friend worries that the poisonous elder is still a threat, our boy reassures him that the city is a safe zone. He explains that while weak cultists might sneak in, the city's top defenders are more than enough to keep epic-level threats from entering. Tang Cheng remains unconvinced, pointing out that even a weak cultist is enough to crush a rookie. He notes that while Lin Luo is powerful enough to be fearless, others like Lian Yining are much more vulnerable. This concern prompts our protagonist to pull out his phone, and although he trusts the strength of the Lian family, he decides it is best to check in. He sends a message to the school flower asking if she reached home safely and mentioning the rumors of student attacks. She quickly replies that she is safe but becomes furious at the idea of the fallen targeting her classmates. After he reassures her that he is also perfectly fine, the scene shifts to the city's central command hall. The deputy city guard stands listening to a grim report from a masked subordinate. The official learns that 35 students were targeted in total, resulting in 7 deaths and several escapes by the enemy cultists. Although 7 deaths might seem like a small number compared to the entire student body, the deputy city guard is heavily burdened by the news as the fallen specifically target the most talented individuals. The report ends with the specific update on Lin Luo, noting that he was intercepted by Master Xiaoman's team. As our hero is safe and every enemy in his vicinity was completely wiped out, the elderly official is left staring with a very contemplative expression. The story continues at the stadium where the students gather for the individual challenge. Official announcements confirm a 2-round format, a one-on-one elimination phase to narrow the field, followed by a high-stakes defense match where the top 16 compete for a spot among the final 4 ring defenders. Lin Luo walks confidently toward the stage flanked by his loyal teammates. Tang Cheng is particularly energetic, encouraging the school flower to stay in the game. He feels a surge of confidence as his association with Lin Luo has propelled his rank into the upper tier of new professionals, making him feel safe from an early exit. Tang Cheng even points out that the top-ranked Dongfang He is only at level 22, which is far below Lian Yining's current standing. This comment causes the girl to blush deeply and hold her temple in embarrassment, as she realizes she is once again being labeled as a sister-in-law. Since our protagonist remains stoic and unbothered by the remark, she secretly feels a sense of relief and joy. The group is suddenly approached by Murong Shuihen, a beautiful blonde woman who introduces herself to Lin Luo. After a formal handshake, she gets straight to the point and invites him to join her in raiding a newly discovered level 30 dungeon. She believes this is a perfect opportunity for 2 low-level elites to secure a first-time clearance and potentially find rare job transfer books. While she maintains a professional demeanor, she secretly imagines a romantic scenario where they bond over a campfire, hoping to develop a relationship that is more than friends. Unfortunately for her, Lin Luo rejects the offer flatly and without hesitation. He explains that since he has already completed his second job transfer, it is physically impossible for him to enter a dungeon with a level limit. This revelation leaves Murong Xuehen pale and frozen in total disbelief. In this world, reaching level 30 and completing the second transformation signifies a move into the Black Iron realm, marking a qualitative shift from a rookie to a true professional. Higher tiers like Bronze, Silver, Gold, and Epic require reaching levels up to 500, and the fact that the boy has achieved his second form before the exams have even concluded is a feat that has never happened before. The tension escalates when Dongfang. He stomps onto the scene shouting that Lin Luo humiliated him by causing his pet dragon to urinate in public. He aggressively accuses our hero of trying to seduce his fiancée, but Murong Xuehen quickly shuts him down, clarifying that her family never agreed to any marriage proposal. Dongfang he remains arrogant, insisting that no one else is worthy of her. Soon after, Yang Haoran joins the confrontation, getting right in our protagonist's face. He dismisses Lin Luo's team victory as the result of despicable tricks and vows to make him kneel in front of Lian Yining during the arena match. Our hero looks back with a bored expression, casually labeling the boy as a pestering fly and promising to help the school flower by removing the pest. As the tournament brackets light up on the screens, the candidates are ordered to their respective arenas. Dongfang issues a final threat of a slow and painful defeat, while a worried Lian Yining offers to have her father intervene. Lin Luo tells her to trust him, privately vowing to completely destroy the Dragon Rider for his continued presumptuous behavior. The first match in the main arena features the D-level priest against a B-level heavy hammer warrior named Zhang Qi. As the muscular warrior prepares his massive stone hammer, he reveals his grudge, claiming he was forced out of the trial tower early as a result of the priest. Zhang Qi assumes he can end the fight quickly by overwhelming a fragile support class before any poisonous mist can spread. However, as he swings his hammer, his face suddenly turns blue. Lin Luo stands calmly as he activates a diarrhea mutation silently. He mocks the warrior for stopping his attack, and Zhang Qi soon collapses in intense pain, unable to control his biological urges. The scene turns horrific as Zhang Qi begins to vomit green gas, creating a stench so foul that Tang Cheng and the other students are forced to cover their noses. The onlookers are terrified, comparing the smell to the dragon's earlier accident and realizing how dangerous the priest's skills truly are. The referee, looking nauseous and holding his nose, officially declares Lin Luo the winner as the warrior has lost all ability to fight. He urgently calls for the cleaning staff to handle the mess before he loses his own composure. Next match begins with Lin Luo facing off against a B-rank opponent named Qingfeng Yiqiu. As soon as the signal is given, the martial artist acts out of extreme caution by immediately unfurling a magical scroll to boost his status resistance. Since he is terrified of the priest's reputation, he follows this up by frantically swallowing several glass vials of antidotes and colorful pills. Our protagonist watches with a mix of pity and suspicion, noting that such expensive gear is out of place for someone of his opponent's status. He correctly deduces that the young man was likely paid and instructed by an aristocrat to test him, but he remains entirely unbothered. While Qingfeng Yiqiu feels confident that his preparations will allow him to push the boy to his limits, Lin Luo reveals that his level is far superior and his specialized skills are already highly developed. He warns his opponent that no external medicine can block his magic and raises his staff to unleash a vortex of dark energy. As the power strikes him, the martial artist's skin turns a sickly yellow. Despite the scrolls and potions, his stomach fails him instantly. A massive, explosive eruption of green fluid and gas fills the arena, forcing the crowd to shield their faces in horror. The biological hazard is so intense that some students are forced to use gas masks to survive the stench. The match ends with workers desperately pouring buckets of liquid freshener across the floor to clear the air. This second display of biological warfare causes the spectators to turn into an angry mob. They shout toward the official boxes, demanding that these disgusting skills be banned for causing environmental and eye pollution. Inside a private balcony, the masked female guardian informs the deputy city guard of the public outrage and mentions that the Dongfang family has officially requested a ban. Surprisingly, the deputy city guard agrees to the restriction immediately. He isn't doing this to be fair, but rather as he knows the boy defeated powerful cultists and wants to force the young priest to reveal the more lethal abilities he is hiding. The announcer declares the official ban on the diarrhea-inducing skill, prompting cheers and mocking gestures from the students who believe Lin Luo is now powerless. Our boy looks on calmly, noting that since they didn't appreciate his gentle methods, he will have to switch to something much more ruthless. The next match is quickly announced, pitting him against the arrogant Yang Haoran. In the preparation area, Dongfang. He provides his lackey with high-level defensive equipment and resistance pills. He coldly instructs the magic swordsman to force the priest to show his full strength, even suggesting that if Lin Luo dies from serious injuries in the ring, it is simply a normal part of competition. Dongfang, he admits to his teammates that he views Yang Haoran as nothing more than a disposable stone to test the waters. Back in the ring, Yang Haoran lunges forward with a massive sword wreathed in flames. He mocks the priest, claiming that without his one-band trick, a support class is nothing against an A-rank magic swordsman. He unleashes a colossal wave of fire that consumes the center of the arena, yet our protagonist remains perfectly unharmed behind a blue barrier. Feeling frustrated, the swordsman switches his stance to combine ice and fire, creating a massive elemental explosion that slams into his target. The crowd is impressed by this dual elemental display, assuming a priest could never defend against such power. Luckily, the magical smoke clears to show Lin Luo completely untouched. He tells a stunned Yang Haoran that it is finally his turn for a beating, and expands a ritual circle beneath him. At first, the swordsman thinks his equipment saved him given that nothing seems to happen. However, his face suddenly twists as an unbearable sensation takes hold. He drops his sword and begins frantically scratching at his legs and groin, screaming that it itches like crazy. Lin Luo looks down with a judgmental gaze, informing his opponent that this is just one of his many specialized skills. He raises his staff, which is now wreathed in a sinister flame, as he prepares to unleash the full effects of his new arsenal, specifically the outbreaks of gonorrhea and syphilis, to show the swordsman a version of heaven he will never forget. Due to the debilitating mutations Lin Luo inflicts on him, the young man frantically scratches at his own skin, while dark wisps of energy swirl around his body. The surrounding crowd watches in a state of absolute horror, noting that he is actually beginning to bleed from the intensity of his own scratching. As he reaches a breaking point, Yang Haoran desperately gathers a sharp, freezing blue energy in his hand to encase his lower body in a thick layer of frost. The protagonist watches this move with a casual look, realizing his opponent is attempting to numb the unbearable itching and pain through self-freezing. He mockingly questions if the boy is worried about causing permanent damage to himself with such a reckless tactic, which only drives the swordsman into a blind, murderous rage. The boy begins walking slowly toward his trembling foe, pointing out that freezing an area only weakens the symptoms, rather than eliminating the source of the problem. To end the struggle, Lin Luo reaches out his hand to summon a red skeletal phantom behind his target. Since he triggers a pain intensification technique, the sudden surge of agony is too much for the already weakened swordsman to handle. Yang Haoran collapses face first into the dirt and loses consciousness, leading the officials to immediately declare Lin Luo the winner. The scene shifts to a medical room where a masked doctor stands over the fallen student. Based on the advanced state of the infection, the doctor assumes the young man has been living a reckless lifestyle to cause such a severe deterioration. A pale Yang Haoran pleads for his future, but the doctor provides a cold, professional diagnosis. As no amount of healing magic can reverse the damage, the only way to save his life is through a total surgical removal. Paralyzed by horror, Yang Haoran eventually whispers his consent for the procedure. Back at the stadium, Dongfang holds a phone to his ear with a grim expression. His teammates watch in shock as he learns that his subordinate's condition is incurable and has resulted in a permanent castration. This news causes a wave of haunting fear to spread through the group of students. They realize that regardless of the circumstances, provoking the priest is a mistake that carries consequences far worse than a simple defeat. Meanwhile, the tournament moves to Arena 5, where Murong Xuehen confronts her former teammate, Li Mei. The white-haired girl points her staff with deep resentment, vowing to defeat the S-Class heir to clear a path for Dongfang He's championship. The heroine simply smiles at this challenge, noting the massive gap in their power. She unfurls her radiant angel wings and hovers above the ground as a display of her hidden profession. When Li Mei hurls multiple dark fireballs in a desperate attack, Murong Xuehen brushes them aside as insignificant. The angel then raises a glowing palm to summon a massive yellow energy from the sky. This holy judgment strikes the center of the arena, ending the fight in a single one-sided assault. As Li Mei lies defeated and defiant on the ground, Murong Xuehen's eyes begin to glow with an intense yellow aura. Given that she possesses her holy light compulsion skill, she is able to turn her opponent into a submissive follower. The defeated girl's expression goes blank as she accepts her new master's orders to provide a complete breakdown of Dongfang He's secrets. Murong Xuehen calculates that with the power difference between them, she will have 72 hours of absolute loyalty to gather the intelligence she needs. A large display board soon updates to reveal the final 4 candidates of the competition: Murong Xuehen, Lin Luo, Dongfang He, and Pan Chen. With the first round concluded, the announcer calls for the second phase to begin. This part of the trial requires the top 4 to defend their respective arenas against the other 8 challengers. While the other rings begin to bustle with activity, Lin Luo stands alone in the center of an empty arena, wondering why not a single person is brave enough to step forward and challenge him. Since his previous methods appeared so brutal, a group of students in the stands shouts and gestures angrily, claiming his skills are too dangerous and should be banned. Lin Luo remains thoughtful and simply ignores the noise, privately realizing that the crowd is likely reacting to the permanent injury he inflicted on Yang Haoran. He concludes that his previous opponent was simply too fragile to handle the abuse of his mutated magic. Luckily, the shouting is interrupted when a new challenger named Fang Yuan steps into the arena. This young man identifies himself as an A-class forbidden spell mage and declares he is not afraid of the priest's perverted attacks as he can block them out. Fang Yuan immediately assumes a casting stance, surrounding himself with multiple rotating magical barriers and circles. He claims to be invincible within a 3-inch radius by using a technique to empty his senses and resist everything. This leads to the manifestation of an earth prison, which creates a massive vortex of energy and rocks that traps Lin Luo in the center of the ring. Our boy remains standing behind his own barrier, watching the mage with a bored expression. Due to Fang Yuan stacking so many defensive shields while attacking from a distance, the young priest mocks him for being terrified. The mage continues to strain as he channels more power, insisting that a forbidden spellcaster could never be afraid of a mere support class. He raises his hands to summon a massive web of lightning that strikes down toward the dome protecting our hero. The onlookers watch in awe, noting that Fang Yuan is releasing 3 high-level moves at once, including defense, control, and attack. Strangely, the lightning crashes harmlessly against Lin Luo's penicillin antibody shield. While the audience worries he might be struck, our protagonist stands tall and decides it is finally time to make his move and show the difference in their levels. He notes that a level 20 mage has no hope of breaking the defense of someone much stronger. As Fang Yuan attempts to cast a 5-element spell, his expression suddenly turns blank. With the Alzheimer's mutation, he completely forgets the sequence of his magic. This opening allows the penicillin elf to appear above the mage and trigger a skin explosion. A massive blast of green energy tears through Fang Yuan's position, leaving the audience in total confusion as their favorite suddenly explodes. Lin Luo stands over the charred and smoking body of his opponent, jokingly asking why he fell down before the fight even truly started. Although the mage tries to struggle back to his feet and considers using a forbidden skill with a heavy price, the weight of the situation eventually forces him to reconsider. He looks at the fate of Yang Haoran and decides that his life is more important than a game. Fang Yuan drops his head and raises a hand in surrender, officially yielding the match. Following this victory, no one else is brave enough to challenge Lin Luo, allowing him to easily defend his title until the end of the round. Murong Xuehen, Dongfang He, and Chen Ping'an also advance, setting the stage for the final championship. High above the stadium, the deputy city guard watches with a cunning smile, wondering how many tricks the young priest is hiding. He imagines the shocked faces of the elite families if a lowly priest actually manages to walk away with the World Wonder Prize. However, a new threat emerges as a dark, hooded figure watches Lin Luo from the shadows. This mysterious elder reveals that he has possessed a garbage body to avenge his niece, and he hopes the boy will provide a worthy challenge. Meanwhile, in the back rooms, Fang Yuan stands before his master, Dongfang He. The dragon rider is furious at the surrender, but the mage explains that it was impossible to break the priest's defense. He suspects that Lin Luo is at least level 30 and has already completed his second transformation as a result of the massive experience gained from the Black Death Plague. This realization forces Dongfang He to admit that he must treat the upcoming fight like a boss battle. As the sun sets, Lin Luo walks through the city with Lian Yining and Tang Cheng. The schoolflower is downcast as she lost her match, but our hero reassures her that she only lost to Murong Xuehen due to a profession gap. When he asks why she chose such a difficult opponent over someone like Chen Ping'an, she huffs in anger. She secretly recalls that Murong Xuehen tried to recruit him earlier, and she couldn't stand the idea of losing to a romantic rival. Lian Yining eventually says goodbye and heads toward her home, leaving the two boys alone. Tang Cheng remains energetic and encourages his boss to take first place so they can all celebrate with a massive meal. Suddenly, a voice calls out to them from behind. They turn around to find their instructor, Li Yu, who explains that she has something important to discuss. Since Lin Luo achieved the highest marks in the recent exams, the teacher informs him that he is expected to give a presentation to the younger students. Our boy is immediately skeptical of this request, sensing that something feels off about the situation. He attempts to decline and head home to rest, but the instructor remains persistent, even offering to write the speech for him or treat him to a meal to secure his cooperation. The conversation is suddenly cut short when multiple hooded figures descend from the sky, blocking the crosswalk. Recognizing the threat, the teacher identifies them as members of the fallen cult and immediately conjures a water barrier to shield the boys. She urges them to run and grabs Lin Luo's hand to pull him away at high speed. However, our protagonist abruptly stops and yanks his hand back with intense suspicion. He realizes that this person cannot be his teacher, as the real Li Yu is incapable of using an instant cast skill of that magnitude. He demands to know who she really is and what happened to the genuine instructor. In response to being caught, the figure's body begins to distort and melt into a dark fluid while letting out a malicious laugh. The skin of the teacher tears away to reveal a man in a dark cloak named Du Cheng. He mockingly explains that he destroyed the original Li Yu's soul and body to create his clone, describing her final moments with sadistic pleasure. This horrific revelation fills Lin Luo with pure rage, but the villain simply points a hand at him and vows to send him to the same fate. Du Cheng lunges forward with a dark aura, yet our hero is much faster than anticipated. By using an incredible burst of speed, he dodges the strike and reappears in his formal evil doctor attire. Our boy vows to kill the cultist, though Du Cheng remains unimpressed, believing the young priest's current strength is insufficient to back up such a threat. The standoff is interrupted by an explosion as 3 city guardians arrive on the scene to intercept the criminal. One of the guardians identifies Du Cheng as an S-class wanted criminal known as the Invisible Dark Beast. The villain reveals that his motivation for being in the city is a blood grudge, as he is the uncle of the defeated Du Xiaoman and the grandson of Elder Poison. He remains arrogant, claiming he will kill the protectors and use the power of the Dark Mist Lord to escape. One of the guardians asks Lin Luo for tactical details regarding his digestive debuff skills. Our protagonist observes the other well-known fallen members nearby and realizes the situation is unfavorable. He informs the guardian that his current abilities are single target only. The guardian instructs the boy to match her movements and control whoever is struck by his physical attacks. Lin Luo readies his staff, realizing that with the assistance of a proper combat class, he can utilize his mutated magic more effectively. The group leaps into the air to begin the counterattack. When a guardian strikes a fallen member with his sword, Lin Luo follows up with his energy. The targeted cultist is immediately overcome by intense internal agony, feeling as though his stomach is about to burst. Another enemy is hit and realizes with frustration that our boy's casting range is much longer than they had prepared for. While the guardians praise the young priest for his support, Du Cheng becomes enraged and insists that they have brought their own countermeasures. Suddenly, a massive horned elemental titan made of rock and earth rises. Lin Luo analyzes the battlefield and identifies the new threat as an elementalist. He realizes that since these enemies can turn their bodies into pure elements, they lack a functional digestive system, making his diarrhea-based mutations completely useless. Looking at the 3 monsters of ice, fire, and rock, our hero recognizes that these specific fallen were handpicked specifically to neutralize his known skills. He stands his ground, realizing he can no longer help his allies using his typical methods. Du Cheng crouches low on the pavement in a feral stance, glaring at Lin Luo with a predatory grin while boasting that he is prepared specifically for this encounter. To back up his words, his body undergoes a monstrous bone-cracking transformation. He grows in size and sprouts purple fur, turning into a wolf-like nighthound. The beast lunges across the alleyway with explosive speed, claiming that the priest's weird tricks are now useless. Our boy manages to dodge the attack at the last second, shouting a warning to his friend. As a result of the sheer pressure of the lunge, Tang Cheng is sent tumbling back and lands hard on the ground. Realizing he is outmatched, the panicked knight watches from a distance and urges our protagonist to be careful. Seizing the opening, the wind elemental giant swings a massive bandaged fist at our hero. Since the strike is too wide to evade, Lin Luo is forced to take the hit. Luckily, a crystalline dome known as the Cold Resistance Antibody Shield erupts around him to absorb the impact. Inside the translucent shield, the young priest breathes heavily amidst dust. Although the barrier held, he realizes the shock of the energy still reached his body. The giant mocks him, believing their countermeasures have rendered the boy helpless. Lin Luo remains undeterred, standing tall as a demonic red silhouette of the evil doctor manifests behind him. He explains that what they saw before was only a fraction of his true power. He produces a small red scalpel, which the giant dismissively compares to a toothpick. Lin Luo ignores the taunt and initiates a non-responsible surgery. As he strikes, energy lines wrap around the giant, triggering a random disability mutation. Due to this, the giant's left hand is cleanly severed and dissolves into air, leaving both the monster and the nighthound in total disbelief. Lin Luo then leaps into the air, using his blood wings to hover above the crater. He zips around the giant with incredible speed while his scalpel flashes, officially starting the real surgery. As black energy rings and mutations distort the giant's body, the monster screams in confusion as its nose has suddenly grown on its wrist. Through a combination of random deformity and organ transplants, the giant is transformed into a tangled, incapacitated mess of bandages. Our boy lands gracefully and looks back at his handiwork, mocking the giant as his first patient. Du Cheng approaches to examine his ally, only to find the giant in a bizarre state. With the surgery completed, a mouth has appeared on the giant's rear. The monster uses this new opening to warn Du Cheng that he feels no pain, but is completely immobile. He suggests that killing the caster is the only way to recover, and warns the hound to avoid the scalpel at all costs. Du Cheng is visibly disgusted by the fact he has to talk to his ally's butt. The night hound snarls at our hero, believing he is safe as long as the blade does not touch him. Lin Luo calls the beast out for its turn, prompting Du Cheng to unleash a wave of dark energy. He summons a pack of shadow wolves and red-eyed crows to overrun the street. While the young priest watches calmly, a nearby guardian screams for him to run. She warns that Du Chung is a dangerous S-level criminal, but our protagonist has no intention of escaping. The young priest gives the hound a devious look and offers to help with his interest in raising monsters. He releases a massive wave of reproductive excitation energy that washes over the summons. Because of this, the wolves and crows immediately stop their attack and begin pouncing on one another in a chaotic mating frenzy. The night hound and the other hidden cultists watch in total bewilderment as the dark beasts completely ignore their orders. Tang Chung is clearly impressed by the fierce skill and shouts that he wants to learn it himself. Meanwhile, the night hound begins to tremble and flush. He screams for his minions to stop, but he realizes with horror that the mutation is so powerful that even he is beginning to struggle with his own instincts to join the pile. The battle in the alleyway reaches a fever pitch as the blonde-haired guardian delivers a powerful sword strike to a wind elementalist clone. She is determined to end the conflict right there, but her final strike is interrupted when the night hound form of Du Chung lunges at her. Linluo stands nearby with a sinister aura, noting that since Du Chung is not an elementalist, he is susceptible to a much more specialized and agonizing attack. Despite being battered, the night hound curses the limitations of his clone body and attempts to flee. The guardian tries to secure the area and tells our boy to head home while they handle the pursuit, but she is quickly paralyzed with confusion. She realizes she has lost track of the student, only for Tang Cheng to point toward the sky. Using his black wings, the boy is already soaring at high speed to stay on the villain's tail. As Du Chung sprints through the air, he fumes over the failure of his mission and the loss of his elementalists. He plans to return to his original body to find a new way to crush the young priest, but his thoughts are cut short by a sudden, sharp pain. As Lin Luo has been following him the entire time, the villain begins to suffer from a stack of mutated debuffs. His stomach feels like a flood is erupting, his blood begins to boil, and an unbearable itching takes over his lower body. The young priest floats majestically above him, surrounded by floating skill banners representing double applications of diarrhea, blood fever, and various debilitating infections. Beside him, the penicillin elf begins to glow with cyan light as Lin Luo explains that the pain is actually being quadrupled thanks to his companion's assistance. He unleashes a final, massive explosion of energy that consumes the trembling wolf beast. The night hound clone lets out an agonizing scream and disintegrates into dark particles, promising revenge just before being completely obliterated in a plume of smoke. Back on the pavement, our boy finds a small purple orb and realizes it is a high-grade space ring. As these are typically reserved for professionals above the gold realm, he recognizes it is far superior to his standard backpack and claims it as loot. He also discovers a dark pearl on the ground just as the guardians arrive. The blonde guardian is in total awe of the kill, admitting that the priest might even be a match for her in a fight to the death. She identifies the dark pearl as a dark beast pearl, a rare artifact dropped only when a mother beast dies. She explains that it contains energy similar to a dragon crystal and was likely the source of Du Chung's control over monsters, though she notes it is only useful for very specific professions. While she considers it useless for ordinary people, Lin Luo decides to keep it due to its high monetary value. The Guardian then expresses her gratitude for his help and extends an official invitation from Deputy Chief Guo Shou for Lin Luo to join their ranks. She lists numerous benefits, including official status, waived university tuition, a house, and a steady monthly salary of 10,000 gold coins. However, the idea of being a civil servant with a boring desk job causes our protagonist to break into an awkward sweat. Preferring his freedom over being constrained by a government job, he politely declines the offer and asks the Guardians to convey his thanks to the Deputy City Lord. As the boys walk away, Tang Cheng excitedly asks to learn the skill that makes beasts behave erratically, and Lin Luo promises to teach him later. The blonde Guardian is left stunned and slightly offended, noting that this is the first time a new professional has ever rejected such a stable and prestigious invitation. Meanwhile, as he walks through the streets, our protagonist examines his new space ring, wondering exactly what kind of treasures the fallen cultist left behind. Late at night, the Deputy City Lord and a blonde Guardian discuss their disbelief over Lin Luo's victory against the notorious Du Cheng. The Guardian admits that our protagonist's biological mutations and the Black Death plague he unleashed in the tower were terrifying even to her. Unfortunately, despite her best efforts to recruit such a powerful talent, the boy refused the offer to join the Guardians. This refusal causes the Deputy City Guard to look up and question the reason behind such a choice. The Guardian explains that he claimed to value his freedom and disliked the restrictions of official service. However, she suspects the real reason is his perceived backing from the Lian family, especially since it is public knowledge that the daughter of that household is extremely close to him. The Deputy City Guard turns his head with a skeptical look, declaring it impossible for the Lian family to choose Lin Luo. He notes that they have a long-standing alliance with Nine Snake Island, one of the 7 emperors of the Deep Sea. Due to this high-stakes political connection, the Guardian asks if the head of the family, Lian Zheng, might have recognized our boy's potential and abandoned his Deep Sea allies to side with him. The deputy city guard dismisses this theory immediately, explaining that the Lian family's marriage alliances are calculated moves with specific purposes. He predicts that as a result of Lin Luo's defiant temper, the boy will likely clash with the Lian family sooner or later. As for the refusal of their invitation, he attributes it to a simple prejudice against the guardians. He explains that their duty is to maintain national order, which often offends the interests of powerful families. As these big families only care about themselves, they use their control over the media to spread negative information about the guardians. This leads many professionals to see them as a limit on freedom, unaware that without their protection, the weak would be oppressed, and the system would collapse into chaos. Despite the tension, the deputy city guard remains determined to get our protagonist on their side as his victory over Du Cheng proves he is the most talented professional available. When the guardian suggests asking the prophet to check Lin Luo's past memories and attributes, the deputy city guard firmly shuts the idea down. He insists that the guardians must maintain their own moral bottom line. Furthermore, given that the boy already views them with suspicion, such a violation of privacy would easily turn him into an enemy. He tells the guardian that he will handle the situation personally and dismisses her. Once alone, he looks at a document containing the names of the Lian family and the Nine Snake Island. He recalls that Lian Zheng is an epic-level Lord of Storms, but his thoughts are interrupted by a sudden, agonizing pain in his chest. He clutches himself in a struggle, thinking about how foreigners are invading while local families only fight for profit. He stares forward with an intense gaze, vowing that he won't let Lin Luo get caught in the crossfire again. Meanwhile, Lin Luo is in his room reflecting on the complex structure of the Fallen. He knows they are divided into many organizations based on which evil god they worship, with the Night Watch being one of the most powerful. Realizing he has started a never-ending battle by killing their members, he decides that thinking too far ahead is useless. He concludes that his only priority right now is becoming as strong as possible. He picks up the golden space ring he looted from Du Cheng and decides to see what is inside. With several gold cards flying out, he realizes he is now filthy rich, as these are anonymous cards from the Adventurers Guild containing 1 million coins each. He continues to sift through the loot, finding dozens of orbs filled with rare materials like colorful python scales and jade dragon horns. Many of these top-quality goods are materials he hasn't even heard of before. Among the treasures, he notices a bone-like Sumeru mask. The item description indicates it was made by a master of formations, but requires the user to wear it to understand its function. Our boy remains cautious, fearing that putting it on rashly might cause a dangerous mutation, so he decides to set it aside. Instead, he focuses on a black and red scroll for a skill called Bewitching. This psychic ability allows a user to control an opponent for a short time based on the gap in their mental energy. As soon as he learns the skill, it triggers a mutation into Stockholm Self-Deception Syndrome. This bizarre ability has a low probability of causing a target to become obsessed with the master, leading them to self-tame and become a compelled servant or slave. Lin Luo finds the mutation weird and slightly disturbing, recalling the mental illness from his previous life. He hopes the skill will be useful for the next day's tournament while wondering what kind of world wonder he might win for taking first place. The story moves to the stadium the next day, where the sea of students has gathered to watch the 4 strongest professionals compete in the semifinals. Tang Sheng runs toward our protagonist in a frantic state as he cannot find Lian Yinning anywhere. Lin Luo checks his phone and sees that he hasn't received any calls or texts back from her. While Tang Cheng worries about a kidnapping, Lin Luo dismisses the idea as courting death given the power of her family. He decides to message her aunt, Lian Qingper, but his investigation is interrupted by an announcement calling the contestants to the stage. Lin Luo walks onto the arena floor for his match against the Dragon Knight, Dongfang He. The crowd immediately notices that the massive red dragon across from him looks much larger and more menacing than it did during the earlier accident. Some students suspect that as the pet is bound for life, Dongfang He must have used his family's wealth to stuff the creature with expensive supplements. In the VIP booth, the deputy city guard observes that the Dongfang family is desperate for a win. His assistant, the blonde guardian, notes that the audience is mostly focused on Lin Luo as he is a rare commoner who has fought his way to the top. A group of fans in the stands screams for our hero to kill his opponent, hoping for another embarrassing display from the dragon. This excitement is contrasted by a serious update for the deputy city guard. The blonde guardian informs him that the head of the Lian family has suddenly left the city for an unknown destination in the deep sea. The deputy city guard stands, realizing that Lian Zheng is finally making his move. Years ago, Lian Zheng reached the Epic Realm and became the Storm Lord by stealing a legendary job transfer item from Storm Island. Because only 2 people hold this title, he must eventually kill and devour the master of Storm Island to ascend to the rank of Storm King. To achieve this, he is fleeing the country and using his daughter as a political pawn to secure an alliance with Nine Snake Island. The deputy city guard is skeptical of Lian Zheng's loyalty and realizes that the man's obsession with power makes him completely indifferent to our protagonist's potential. Luckily, the deputy city guard has intervened to protect our boy's interests. he successfully maneuvered to bring the young master of Nine Snake Island into the Dragon Empire as a proxy, effectively blocking the planned marriage alliance. This calculated move ensures that Lian Yining won't be easily traded away, as the deputy city guard believes Lin Luo is worth the investment and refuses to let a father exploit his own daughter. The focus shifts to the stadium where the red dragon lets out a roar that shakes the arena. Lin Luo stands opposite Dongfang He and mocks the dragon rider, asking if he wants to repeat the embarrassing public accident from their last encounter. The young master struggles to hold his pet back, promising the beast it can bite the priest to death once the match officially begins. In the stands, a group notes that the dragon clearly remembers the humiliation of the previous incident. One female wonders if there will be surprises, while the patriarch watches with a bad feeling, acknowledging that Lin Luo is consistently unpredictable. The referee signals the start of the match, and the dragon immediately lunges toward its target. Our boy is ready and swings his staff to release a wave of mental confusion energy. As this power ripples through both the rider and the beast, Dongfang, he becomes completely disoriented with vacant eyes. Our hero moves with incredible speed while the dragon rider is confused, leading to a disastrous mistake. Instead of hitting Lin Luo, Dongfang He delivers a strike directly into the snout of his own pet. Blood sprays across the ring as the dragon shrieks in pain, leaving the audience in a state of absolute shock. Onlookers realize the young master was trapped in an illusion that made his own dragon look like the enemy. Dongfang. He panics and tries to apologize, but the dragon glares at him with lethal intent. Seeing the contract seal on the beast's forehead beginning to crack, the young master realizes he is on the verge of losing his pet forever. To prevent the mark from shattering, he decides he must end the fight immediately using his family's greatest resources. Dongfang He powers up and equips a set of ornate gold and red Dragon Knight armor. He boasts that even if Lin Luo has reached level 30, he cannot overcome the gap in their family backgrounds. Spectators are stunned by the expensive equipment, noting its extremely high attributes and resistances. Lin Luo remains bored and decides to test if the boy's gear is truly a match for his raw level. The Dragon Knight charges with a flaming weapon. Dongfang. He laughs manically, claiming that he took a massive amount of antivirus pills and vaccinations to ensure the priest's dirty tricks won't work on him. However, his confidence turns to confusion as Lin Luo continues to weave around every attack. The young master cannot understand how a priest can be more agile than a combat class, yet our hero simply leaves multiple afterimages in his wake. The group in Dongfang family booth is stunned by this display of speed, but the patriarch assumes the boy must be overdrawing his strength using a temporary burst skill. Suddenly, Dongfang He freezes in place as petals fall around the arena. Our boy reappears behind his opponent and notes that while the vaccinations might block some infections, there is no vaccine for his reproductive excitation skill. He tells the young master to enjoy the pleasure as the mutation takes hold. Dongfang. His face turns into a dazed, blushing mask with a wide, eerie smile. In his mind, he sees a vision of a gorgeous humanoid female dragon with red hair and soft scales. Driven by this hallucination, the young master lunges at the neck of his actual red dragon, hugging it tightly and calling it a beauty. The stadium falls into a horrified, nauseous silence as the students watch Dongfang. He tried to play with his own pet in a way that leaves the entire audience wanting to vomit. They mock the Dragon Knight for his pathetic behavior, jokingly suggesting that he has discovered a new and twisted way to ride a dragon. The red dragon eventually throws its head back and lets out an ear-splitting scream of agony, causing the dazed attacker to drop to the ground. Inside the illusion, Dongfang. He dismisses the surrounding chaos as the fuss of an annoying demon while he floats toward a beautiful, dark-haired woman. Although the female figure in his mind recoils in terror and pleads for him to stop, the young master only becomes more aggressive. He smiles with crazed, bloodshot eyes and insists that he won't give up on his prize so easily. Back in the real world, the dragon is pushed to its limit and uses its claws to shove its master away. The crowd notes that the proud beast is clearly holding back its strength out of a lingering sense of loyalty. Otherwise, the young master would have been killed instantly for such an insult to the dignity of dragons. High on a balcony, the Murong family patriarch, Murong Chenfu, observes the match with the girl. Murong Shuehen explains that she finished her own match quickly to watch the spectacle, and notes that the once-in-a-century sight of a professional lusting after his own pet is too exciting to ignore. She correctly analyzes that the young master is trapped in a powerful illusion, but she concludes that falling for such a trick proves he is secretly a playboy who covets beauty in private. Because of this public disgrace, the patriarch immediately decides to send someone to reject the marriage proposal from the Dongfang family. Murong Shuehen is filled with relief and joy, laughing at the fact that their rivals have lost all face in front of the entire country. The students in the crowd continue to record the event on their phones, eager to keep the footage of the heir's humiliation for the rest of their lives. Inside the Dongfang family booth, Patriarch Dongfang Daizong is screaming in a blind rage while his assistants try to hold him back. Although the assistant suggests admitting defeat to save what little reputation they have left, The patriarch refuses. He realizes the scandal is already being broadcast nationwide, so he believes their only hope is for his son to win first place and use a media campaign to bury the disgrace. A female proposes a solution by casting a spell, but the patriarch warns her not to target Lin Luo directly to avoid trouble with the deputy city guard. Instead, the female decides to cast a spell on Dongfang He to wake him from the nightmare. While she prepares the ritual, the patriarch notes that our protagonist is foolishly focusing his attacks on the dragon instead of the defenseless master. He hopes the pet can hold out long enough for the illusion to break so they can still win. Our hero continues to unleash a barrage of skin explosions, causing red to pulse around the dragon's body. Lin Luo analyzes the creature's high health and resistance, noting that it is an impressive beast for such a young age. He secretly feels a glint of greed and wishes he could claim the dragon for himself, but he finds it frustrating that his Stockholm self-deception syndrome refuses to trigger due to its low probability. He decides to fight a little longer before resorting to more ruthless tactics to end the stalemate. Meanwhile, the hallucination reaches a peak of aggression. Dongfang, he begins to scream at the cowering woman in his mind, claiming his patience has run out and that no one can stop him from having her. He raises his weapon with a burst of red energy and swings down with everything he has. In reality, the young master plunges his sword directly into the dragon's backside. A geyser of blood splatters across the floor, leaving the crowd in absolute horror as they realize he has stabbed his own pet in the most humiliating way possible. The dragon releases a final, agonizing roar toward the sky just as the female in the booth triggers her curse-breaking spell. The illusion finally shatters, and Dongfang, he stands in the center of the ring with a bruised face and wide, confused eyes. He looks around for the beauty from his dreams, only to find a bleeding dragon staring down at him with murderous rage. As he realizes the horrific truth of what he has done, the young master begins to tremble and sweat in terror. He breaks into tears and desperately tries to explain that it was all a misunderstanding, hoping to survive the wrath of his own companion. Due to the severe physical and emotional trauma inflicted during the battle, the red dragon pet finally snaps and breaks its contract seal. The beast lets out a sky-shaking roar before taking flight and abandoning the arena entirely. This leaves a devastated Dongfang. He reaching toward the clouds in despair, desperately ordering his pet to return as Lin Luo stands calmly in the distance. In the observation balcony, the elders of the Dongfang family descend into a state of pure panic. They realize that losing a dragon, which serves as a 1,000-year guardian and the key to their success, is a catastrophic blow to their lineage. Since the match is effectively over and their priority has shifted to salvaging their assets, the family patriarch leads a hurried retreat to pursue the escaping creature. From their own vantage point, the blonde guardian and the deputy city guard observe this sudden departure. While the assistant assumes the family has simply surrendered the tournament prize, the deputy city guard explains that a young dragon is far more valuable than a broken artifact. He recognizes that the escape has rendered the dragon ownerless, providing a unique opportunity for anyone to intervene. As a result, he issues an immediate order for all guardians to mobilize and locate the beast. The news of the dragon's flight also reaches a group of hooded fallen cultists stationed outside the stadium. A female member with pale hair realizes that obtaining the dragon's crystal would allow her to reach a higher level of power. Driven by this ambition, she commands her subordinates to find the dragon before any other faction can claim it. Back on the arena floor, a scorched and bruised Dongfang. He gasps for air while blaming the young priest for the loss of his pet. Our protagonist remains characteristically indifferent to the yelling, noting that he has no personal debt to the angry young master. This lack of remorse causes Dongfang He to snap completely, leaping into the air to launch a desperate red energy strike. The attack shatters the ground but fails to penetrate the crystalline barrier protecting our hero. The display of futility draws mockery from the students in the stands, who begin to gossip about the young master's bizarre behavior toward his pet. As a collection of judgmental thoughts from the crowd swirls around him, Dongfang, he is pushed into a blind rage. He activates a powerful golden thunder technique and slams his weapon down, creating a colossal explosion that consumes the ring. Once the smoke clears, Lin Luo is revealed to be perfectly safe inside an ice diamond barrier. The sight of a support class blocking a full power strike head-on leaves the dragon rider in a state of wide-eyed horror. Our hero decides he is in too much of a hurry to continue playing around and prepares to end the fight quickly. He produces a small blue scalpel, which triggers laughter and confusion among the spectators who find the tiny tool ridiculous for a professional weapon. Even Dongfang, he laughs hysterically, assuming the blade is just a joke, warning his foe that he will soon forget how to laugh. He passes through the young master's guard in a flash, leaving only a faint red mark on his chest. Given that the strike seemed to have no immediate effect, Dongfang he initially believes it was a bluff. However, as the young priest walks away, he congratulates his opponent on opening a door to a new world. A magical aura suddenly envelops the young master, triggering a random degeneration mutation that results in an instantaneous sex change. The crowd is stunned to see a beautiful woman standing where the air once was. While the spectators realize the scalpel is actually a tool for horrific anatomical manipulation, the now female Dongfang He collapses to her knees in a high-pitched panic. Our boy explains with a clinical tone that the sudden weakness is due to the target failing to adapt to a completely new body structure. He mocks her further by mentioning the upcoming monthly cycles she will have to endure before advising her to surrender. The female Dongfang He coughs up blood and loses consciousness, leading the officials to declare Lin Luo the victor of the match. Following this victory, the final match is set between our hero and Murong Xuehen. However, after witnessing the terrifying and unpredictable nature of the priest's skills, the Murong family patriarch decides it is not worth the risk to fight. Murong Xuehen looks away with a troubled expression and officially yields the match, making Lin Luo the champion of the individual competition. Amidst the victory, the young priest appears distracted while checking his phone. He informs Tang Cheng that he has received an urgent message from Lian Yining's aunt regarding the school flower's whereabouts. Since the announcement of the forfeit means he no longer has to wait for a final battle, he leaves the stadium immediately, trusting Tang Cheng to handle the remaining formalities of the award ceremony. Murong Xuehen and her team regroup at a courtyard to discuss their sudden withdrawal. Her assistant is visibly confused and questions why they would abandon the chance to win a world wonder, but the girl calmly explains that she only had a 50% chance of victory and would have suffered heavy injuries regardless. She points out that the consequences of being hit by Lin Luo's skills are too high to risk, a sentiment her uncle Murong Chenfu agrees with. He realizes that even a victory would have ruined the family's reputation if their star heir were tarnished by the priest's bizarre mutations. Beyond simple safety, the girl reveals she values the potential of our boy and prefers to build a friendship rather than create a dangerous enemy. Her uncle watches her walk away, hoping Lin Luo truly possesses the value she believes he does. Meanwhile, the scene shifts back to the stadium where the announcer calls for the first prize winner to take the stage for a speech, but the crowd is left in confusion when Lin Luo fails to appear. Tang Cheng steps forward to inform the officials that the guy had urgent business to attend to, and requested his best friend to accept the honors on his behalf. The deputy city guard watches the substitution with a sigh, correctly guessing that Lin Luo is worried about Lian Yining. He decides to make an exception for the friendship and allows the ceremony to continue without the champion. Our protagonist is actually sitting in a peaceful tea house with Sister Qing to learn the truth about the school flower's disappearance. The aunt explains that given an urgent matter, Lian Yining's father has already taken her away to Nine Snake Island in the Starry Sea. Although they are expected back in 2 months, Sister Qing hands over a letter since the remote island has a disordered magnetic field that blocks mobile signals. Our boy is skeptical of the sudden departure, feeling as though the girl is being treated like a child, but he opens the envelope to find a handwritten note. In the letter, Lian Yining promises to meet him at Imperial University in 2 months and tells him to take care. Lin Luo senses there is more to the story and asks if the girl is in trouble, but a regretful Sister Qing insists she can say no more and must leave immediately. As he turns to walk away in frustration, the aunt softly admits she lied about the circumstances but reassures him that the girl's love for him is genuine. Later that night, the young priest walks alone through the moonlit streets, analyzing the situation. He recalls that Nine Snake Island is a powerful, semi-independent force located far out in the Starry Sea, and he wonders how a mainland family like the Lians could be so deeply involved with them. This train of thought is interrupted when a golden energy pulses from his storage space. He pulls out the Sumeru mask he looted from the fallen cultist, and discovers it is causing trouble despite not being touched. A transmission screen appears in the mask's eye sockets, revealing urgent messages from the Night Watch. One operative is requesting immediate help at Pale Canyon, while another reports that the escaped Red Dragon has been found and is currently being contested by the Guardians. Realizing the mask is actually a sophisticated communication device, our hero decides to put it on to investigate further. A surge of dark red and black energy erupts as the mask identifies him as operative number 872. This grants him access to a virtual plaza and a teleportation function. Since he has been coveting Dongfang, he's dragon pet for a long time, he realizes this is a perfect opportunity to intervene while the various factions are distracted. Elsewhere, the consequences of the tournament are laid bare at a medical facility. The former Dragon Knight, Dongfang He, is now in a female form and lying in a recovery pool, whispering about her lost pet. Her father, Patriarch Dongfang Daizong, consults with doctors who explain that while her physical wounds have healed, she has suffered severe mental trauma. More shockingly, the doctors confirm that the transformation is total and permanent. The young master is now physiologically a woman. When the patriarch suggests a transplant to continue the bloodline, the doctor clarifies that such a move would not preserve the family's true DNA. The patriarch's reaction is cold and ruthless. He declares that if the bloodline cannot be continued through his child, he will simply father more sons. He dismisses the now female Dongfang He as a tool for a strategic marriage alliance, suggesting that some aristocrat will surely be interested in her unique situation. The girl sits up in her bed and screams in a terrified fury, refusing to accept her new life or the prospect of marrying a man. Her father remains unforgiving, reminding her that she is nothing without the dragon pet the family raised for her. He uses his magic to bind her, ordering his staff to keep a close eye on her so she can be squeezed for her remaining political value. This grim moment is interrupted when an assistant arrives with news that the dragon pet has been located in Pale Canyon, where a battle is raging between the Night Watch and the Guardians. The patriarch immediately orders a full-scale deployment to retrieve the beast at any cost. As the family leaves to join the hunt, the female Dongfang he sits in her bonds, gritting her teeth in despair. She realizes the cruelty of her family means she will be discarded unless she can reclaim her power. Driven by a desperate need for survival, she vows to make the dragon recognize her as its master once again to turn the tables on those who would use her. Meanwhile, Linluo arrives in a desolate canyon through a portal, disguised by a horned mask that earns him immediate respect as a high-ranking senior. Realizing the mask provides a powerful cover, he maintains his composure and demands a report. The subordinates reveal they are battling the Guardians under orders to recapture the young dragon, but the mission has stalled due to the heavy resistance. Our hero begins walking calmly toward the sounds of the struggle to investigate for himself. He soon arrives at a crater where the red dragon is pinned to the ground by heavy iron chains and trapped beneath an energy dome. The area has become a chaotic battlefield filled with a violent clash between the Night Watchmen and the Guardians. Linluo hides behind some foliage to observe the three-way struggle, noting that the intensity of the fight is a direct result of the dragon being an ownerless prize. While scanning the combatants, his gaze shifts as he spots a familiar face among the Guardians, identifying the blonde officer Zhao Qicheng in the thick of the fray. Zhao Qicheng is currently locked in a fierce duel with a silver-haired Night Watchman elder named Chai Feng. The elder mocks the Guardian for trying to snatch the beast, insisting that her organization found it first. To end the argument, Chai Feng unleashes a flame dragon claw that slams into the blonde officer that sends her reeling. Zhao Qicheng is left slumped on the ground, wounded and panting, while the elder stands over her with cold contempt. She points out that they were equals 5 years ago but claims she has become useless because her status as a guardian forces her to protect the weak. Chai Feng attempts to recruit his former rival, urging her to join the Night Watch and abandon her sense of order to find true success. Luckily, the officer remains undeterred and looks up with eyes burning with fierce defiance. She argues that strength without a purpose makes a person nothing more than a living corpse, even if that purpose is what holds her back. This rejection turns the elder's expression murderous, and she ignites dark flames in her palm. She fires a concentrated blast of dark energy containing a magical spearhead directly at the defenseless woman to end her life. Suddenly, an arrow from above intercepts the attack mid-air that leaves Chai Feng looking up in surprise. Dongfang Daizong stands nearby, having arrived with his own forces to reclaim what he considers the Dongfang family property. The elder mocks this claim, insisting that an ownerless creature belongs to whoever is strong enough to grab it first. As Zhao Qicheng shouts for her not to ignore her, Chai Feng leaps back into the fray and unleashes an elemental explosion. This massive wave of energy blasts back the Guardians and the Dongfang professionals simultaneously, while the elder laughs at their collective weakness. Watching from the shadows, Linluo analyzes the elder's power. He realizes that Flame Dragon is incredibly formidable for maintaining the upper hand while being outnumbered. This observation makes him realize that if his previous opponent, Du Cheng, had been in his prime, the outcome would have been fatal. Our protagonist remains perfectly still, deciding that it is best to wait for an optimal moment to intervene rather than making a dangerous, sudden move. In the center of the crater, Chai Feng continues to hold off the crowd while barking orders to her subordinates to focus on controlling the dragon. The Guardians and Dongfang family members decide to launch a coordinated attack, believing that if they can kill the flame dragon, the rest of the Night Watch will crumble. Despite the pressure, the subordinates tighten the iron chains around the beast, causing electricity to surge across its body. The dragon roars toward the sky in absolute pain, struggling in vain to escape its captors. Finally, our hero decides the time for observation is over. He approaches the battlefield with his arms outstretched and casually asks the combatants if they are in need of some assistance. A hooded night watchman assumes he is a superior and desperately begs him to help suppress the struggling beast. Linluo agrees to assist but immediately betrays the cultist by striking him with a skin explosion. As the other night watchmen recoil in shock, he unleashes a wave of mental confusion that forces the remaining guards to turn their weapons on one another in a chaotic brawl. The dragon watches the infighting with total bewilderment, while our protagonist jokingly tells the creature to thank him for preventing its capture. Suddenly, a geyser of crimson energy erupts as the elder Chai Feng emerges from the flames. She realizes Operative 872 has turned traitor and lunges at him with murderous intent, though our boy manages to dodge her high-speed assault. Just as Chai Feng prepares a follow-up strike, Dongfang Daizong fires an arrow from mid-air to distract her. The patriarch is driven by a need to avenge the perceived death of his child, forcing Chai Feng to divide her attention between the two opponents. While they clash in the air, the Guardian officer Zhao Qicheng observes the scene through the dust. She identifies the Sumeru mask as the one belonging to the deceased Du Cheng and realizes Lin Luo must have taken it after their previous fight. Fearing for the safety of the talented young priest, she orders all guardians to prioritize saving him over the dragon. Chaifeng becomes overwhelmed by the combined pressure and unleashes a massive red aura to push back the surrounding fighters. She manages to grab Dongfang Daizong by the throat but suddenly senses a terrifying presence and flees the scene, dropping the patriarch to the ground. Lin Luo and Zhao Qicheng watch her exit with confusion until a cold, powerful professional named Dongfang Wuyue steps onto the battlefield. Dongfang Daizong bows before the newcomer, revealing him to be the epic realm ancestor of the Dongfang family. The ancestor explains that the death of his descendant called him through their bloodline and vows to hunt down the murderer. Before departing in a golden flame aura, he instructs the patriarch to retrieve the young heir's body for a specific purpose. Dongfang Daizong then turns his suspicion toward the masked Lin Luo, but Zhao Qicheng intervenes to protect him. She lies to the patriarch by claiming the boy is actually an undercover guardian agent who successfully infiltrated the Night Watch to earn a high-ranking mask. Because the patriarch remains skeptical, the officer shuts down the questioning and forcibly takes Lin Luo away from the area. Once they reach a secluded rocky spot, the young priest removes his mask and faces a stern lecture from Zhao Qicheng. She scolds him for the extreme risk of using a cultist's mask and warns him that he could have been teleported into a trap. While Lin Luo sits on a boulder reflecting on getting caught, the red dragon suddenly appears on a nearby rock with its chains broken. Zhao Qicheng is confused as to why the beast followed them, but our protagonist smiles warmly because he realizes the dragon came specifically to see him. Meanwhile, Dongfang Daizong stands in the desolate canyon looking at a crystalline coffin with a bewildered expression. He cannot understand how his son escaped the binding of his skill. He recalls providing the boy with a resurrection tool years ago, yet the lack of magical residue in the air confirms that no rebirth occurred, and the young master is truly dead. This confusion is interrupted by a ring from his mobile phone. Upon answering, he receives a panicked report from a subordinate stating that the young master committed suicide and cannot be found at the designated resurrection point. Dongfang Daizong realizes his son made a desperate tactical choice to use death as a means to break his father's control, all for the sake of the dragon pet. Nearby, the red dragon looms over Zhao Qicheng and Lin Luo. The female guardian warns our boy to be cautious, as an ownerless dragon is extremely dangerous, especially one that likely holds a grudge against him. Lin Luo remains calm while looking into the beast's intense eyes, noting that it doesn't seem to have ill intentions. As he reaches out to touch the dragon's snout, the creature responds with a low rumble rather than aggression. He feels a strange connection forming, which the system confirms as the successful activation of Stockholm self-deception syndrome. He notes that while the skill has been triggered, it lacks an immediate effect and will take time to fully manipulate the target's psyche. Zhao Qicheng watches this interaction with sweating disbelief. She cannot fathom a dignified race like a dragon currying favor with a human. Our boy dismisses her shock by jokingly claiming the beast is obsessed with him. This prompts the guardian to urge him to sign a formal contract immediately to secure the prize. She offers to gift him a contract item, but Lin Luo produces a stone tablet that he obtained from a previous boss fight. Zhao Qicheng is stunned to see a top-level Styx contract in the hands of a rookie. Once the stone pulses with energy, a system notification confirms the contract is successful. Our hero proudly claims the dragon as his own, leading the guardian to reflect on the historical birth of a dragon priest. Lin Luo opens the dragon's status panel and is shocked to see that the level 22 flame dragon possesses attributes far superior to level 50 silver-class bosses. Zhao Qicheng explains that these high stats are a result of the Dongfang family stuffing the creature with rare elixirs to prepare it for combat. Since the name Red Dragon feels too formal, our boy decides to call her Crimson. The dragon purrs in agreement, allowing him to leap onto her back. While he prepares to fly, Zhao Qicheng calls the deputy city guard to report that the dragon has officially made a contract with Lin Luo. In an office, the deputy city guard shouts in astonishment upon hearing that the dragon is now being mounted by Lin Luo. After confirming the details, he realizes the situation has become a long-term strategic problem, for the Dongfang family will do anything to recover their lost asset. Zhao Qicheng points out that Lin Luo lacks a special pet space to hide the dragon, meaning they will be discovered if they return to the city openly. As a result, the deputy city guard instructs her to take the boy and the beast to a remote base in the Black Steel Mountains for temporary housing. The scene shifts to a hall where the epic professional Dongfang Wuyue stands before a trembling Dongfang Daizong. The ancestor is snarling with disgust as the killer escaped and the family has suffered a massive humiliation. When the patriarch attempts to offer comfort by promising to continue the bloodline, the ancestor dismisses him, claiming he can handle that himself. His primary concern is the lost dragon, and he calculates that, given its young age, they can recapture and tame it. He orders the patriarch to use the young master's corpse to activate a secret search method to gain the upper hand in the hunt. In a desolate landscape, a wounded and bloodied Chai Feng curses the Dongfang family and the traitorous operative 872. A shadowy silhouette representing the Lord of the Dark Mist appears behind her, revealing that he saved her from certain death. The entity demands immediate repayment for his kindness, but the white-haired woman questions her own worth now that she is a cripple. The shadow offers her the arm of a dragonborn to replace her lost limb, promising it will grow stronger than her original. In exchange, he requires her to become his spokesperson within the Night Watch and travel outside the territory to retrieve a specific object. Chai Feng accepts the deal, officially becoming a follower of the Dark Lord. Finally, Lin Luo returns to his room looking tired but satisfied. He reflects on his journey back, noting that he ran into Tang Cheng and collected the prize his friend picked up for him. He holds a large stone box with an excited smile. He prepares to open the container, eager to finally see the world's wonder hidden inside. A light erupts from within, forcing him to shield his eyes as he cries out in surprise. As the radiance fades, a soft teal creature with black eyes is revealed. Lin Luo stares in bewilderment, noting that the prize looks like a slime or jelly. A status screen identifies the object as a world's wonder, a damaged conceptual creature born from merging world rules that contains a world inside and grows by consuming space-time gaps. Our protagonist examines the translucent body between his fingers, questioning how the legendary treasure fought over by noble families could be a living slime. Little Green, the penicillin elf, hovers near the creature with a protective purr. Lin Luo warns the elf to be careful, fearing the slime might try to eat it. A sudden knock at the door interrupts the moment. When he opens it, he finds Deputy City Guard Guo Shui standing there. The official enters and laughs, noting that the heads of noble families would be furious to see the boy playing with the world's wonder so casually. Guo Shui notices Little Green and expresses genuine surprise at the elf's presence. To appease the wary creature, the old man offers a small yellow crystal, which the elf eagerly eats. Our hero apologizes for the lack of etiquette, but the deputy city guard dismisses it before inviting Lin Luo to join the Guardians. Our protagonist remains firm in his refusal, stating he has no intention of becoming a member. Guo Shouye explains that he understands the boy's desire for freedom, which is why he is offering the position of honored guest, rather than a standard member. The official explains that the honored guest role was created for talented professionals who dislike restrictions. These individuals are effectively freelancers who receive pay and benefits without the daily work of standard guardians. Aside from occasional special missions with great rewards, the role offers complete freedom. Lin Luo admits the condition is tempting, but asks why he was chosen. Guo Shouyi stands tall and explains that he is betting on the boy's future potential. He adds that as an honored guest, our boy can even command other guardians below the Gold Realm. As this is the greatest sincerity the official can offer, he prepares to give up if the boy still refuses. Lin Luo finally agrees to join. Guo Shouyi presents an ornate token and a badge to officially mark the appointment. The token allows the holder to mobilize all guardians in Binhai City below the Gold Realm, while the badge contains a hibernation barrier space for pets. Since Lin Luo lacks a dedicated pet space, he finds the gift extremely thoughtful. He then asks for clarification on what the world's wonder actually does. The deputy city guard sits and explains that even a genius will take a long time to use it, as its primary function is to help epic professionals enter the legendary realm and assist legendary beings in reaching the mythical realm. Our protagonist is shocked to realize he holds an item intended for the strongest beings at the top of humanity. He questions why such an important item was given as an exam reward. Guo Shouyi explains that he and other epic masters snatched the artifact from deep-sea aliens. As the item was damaged and lost its power during the battle, the families decided to let their children compete for it to avoid a direct conflict between the masters. The official laughs, imagining the frustration of the top families who expected to win but lost to our boy. Lin Luo notes that the description mentions repairing the wonder using a time and space gap. Guo Shouyi explains that these gaps are collective terms for rule fragments, such as a heart of territory. These are found at monster gathering points guarded by intelligent, organized bosses. In the Dragon Kingdom, such places exist in outer space, dungeons, and the Starry Sea. The official warns that these locations are far more deadly than the wilderness, but our protagonist only gives a devious smile and claims he was just asking. Guo Shouyi asks if the boy has chosen a university for graduation. Lin Luo admits he hasn't thought about it, leading the official to recommend Imperial University. He describes it as the top school in the kingdom and mentions that the young master of Nine Snake Island will be attending there as a hostage. Hearing this, our boy's expression turns sharp as he thinks of Lian Yining being taken to that same island. Guo Shouyi teases him, noting that the whole city knows they are a couple. He reassures the boy that guardians are present on Nine Snake Island, and the girl will be safe. Lin Luo asks to use the Guardian Network to send her a letter, and the official agrees, noting it is a simple matter for a member. Later that night, rain pours over the dark city streets as a car drives along. Inside, Zhao Qicheng asks if the boy agreed to join. Guo Shouyi stares out the window and confirms the agreement. He thinks back to the strange creature beside the boy, wondering if it was an elemental elf. He is intrigued by the fact that it eats elemental crystals despite not being a standard elemental. The official continues to stare into the night, noting that the kid possesses many secrets. Binhai City has fully embraced Lin Luo's fame, with skyscrapers draped in advertisements for everything from his signature priest coats to branded shampoo. As our hero strolls through the city, he jokingly considers charging for copyright fees, but his leisure is cut short when a crowd spots him. Because of his status as a local legend, a frantic mob immediately surrounds him to snap photos and document the celebrity sighting. The situation quickly turns chaotic as fans and fellow professionals swarm him with bizarre requests. One priest asks how to replicate the sex change skill used on Dongfang He, while others beg for autographs or a lesson in the diarrhea technique to cure their own ailments. The pressure intensifies when 3 female fans push to the front, with one girl aggressively offering to show him a tattoo on her belly button to prove her devotion. Another fan asks for medical advice regarding breast enhancement, which leaves our protagonist sweating in total panic at the sheer nonsense of the rumors. To escape the suffocating attention, he activates his adrenaline rush skill and sprints away, eventually finding a quiet back alley to catch his breath. He reflects on how exhausting fame has become and realizes he cannot even go shopping for supplies without being harassed. While resting in the alley, he examines his Scarlet Fury staff and notes that as a level 40 professional in his second transformation, his current weapon is now a novice-tier drag on his power. Since high-level gear is rarely found online, he was hoping to browse the local shops, but the plan has backfired. His solitude is interrupted when a group of male fans discovers his hiding spot and rushes toward him, shouting loyalty and making inappropriate jokes about his ability to enhance their physical attributes. Luckily, Murong Xuehen appears at the entrance of the alley with her elderly manager, Uncle Liu. She silences the rowdy group with a stern warning about respecting boundaries. By claiming that Lin Luo is currently on a date with her, she intimidates the fans into fleeing, as no one is brave enough to challenge the authority of the Murong family. Once the crowd disperses, Lin Luo expresses his gratitude for the rescue. Murong Xuehen casually brushes off the favor and asks why he is wandering the city alone. After he explains his need for an equipment upgrade, she recommends a high-end showroom owned by her family. They enter the top professional shop in the city, a sleek facility filled with premium armor and displays. While the selection is impressive, he notes that most gold-level items for second transformation professionals are missing. Murong Xuehen explains the market reality, noting that silver-level items are considered precious for most, while gold-level gear is usually reserved for wealthy families who never visit public stores. She takes the opportunity to invite him to join the Murong family again, offering him any gold equipment he wants in exchange for his loyalty. He politely declines the offer, reiterating his desire to remain free. Murong Xuehen admits it is a shame but shifts the conversation to a more somber topic regarding Lian Yining. This catches Lin Luo's attention, and he narrows his eyes as she reveals that the school flower was actually taken to Nine Snake Island by force to enter a political marriage with a young master. Murong Xuehen explains that Yining kept this a secret to avoid worrying him, as she was caught between her father's ambition and her duties to the family. However, she clarifies that the marriage has been delayed for a powerful figure intervened to force the groom to study at Imperial University as a hostage instead. Lin Luo realizes that Deputy City Lord Guo Shouyi has done far more for him behind the scenes than he originally thought, creating a debt of gratitude that will be difficult to repay. Murong Xuehen extends a hand to our hero, noting that she has given up her shot at the world wonder and provided him with vital information just to prove her sincerity as a friend. Lin Luo accepts the handshake, realizing that being on good terms with her is a strategic advantage. To solidify their new alliance, she has Uncle Liu present a special case containing a level 40 epic-grade magic staff. This red weapon possesses massive boosts to spirit, spell penetration, and critical hits, along with advanced skills for corpse control and mental clarity. Lin Luo is stunned by the quality of the gift, especially when Murong Xuehen admits she took it from her family's private treasury specifically for him. He agrees to purchase the staff for a friendly price of 800,000 gold coins, using his accumulated materials and money to cover the cost. With his inventory fully stocked with new equipment and consumables, Lin Luo prepares for the next stage of his journey. He travels to a fortress-like facility in the Black Steel Mountains to bid farewell to the city. Dressed in a new combat outfit, he mounts his red dragon, Crimson, and looks toward the horizon with a determined expression. As he needs to repair the world wonder as quickly as possible, he knows he must locate a heart of the territory, which can only be found in the most dangerous regions. He points toward the distance and commands Crimson to take flight, officially leaving the region behind to hunt for rule fragments in the untamed wilderness.
If you enjoy this kind of content and want to watch more videos like this, please subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to leave a comment, give the video a like, and click the notification bell so you'll never miss my latest uploads. Thank you for your support.